Hey guys, tonight we're knee-deep in French river mud, where medieval laundry meets liquid ASMR. Let's unpack why your ancestors would have killed for a Loire Valley sheep's armpit hair. Don't worry, I'll wait while you text that to your group chat. You stand where Burgundian dukes once sent servants to scrub wool in spring floods. It's Versailles for textiles, minus the guillotines. Dawn licks the horizon, pale fingers prodding slate-colored clouds. Mist clings to your lashes like cobwebs dipped in liquid silver. The Loire whispers gossip about Charlemagne's itchy underwear, true story. His chroniclers complained about coarse tunics chafing during conquests. Your boots sink into cold silt each step, releasing trapped air bubbles that smell like wet coins. To your left, a thorny hedge quivers, some creature's morning commute disrupted by your trespass. Wool bales crouch along the bank, pale humps glowing like slumbering ghosts. They're fresh from Cistercian, monastic mills, where monks timed washes by psalm recitals, 3 Hail Marys per rinse cycle. A kingfisher darts overhead, its teal streak slicing through gauzy light. You count 17 ripples where its talons skim the water, 18's considered bad luck here. Local folklore claims these streams birth will-o'-the-wisps. When wool absorbs moonlight, skeptics blame decomposing algae. Your pinky brushes a fiber drifting ashore, coarse as a sailor's beard, heavy with lanolin's greasy tears. That's sheep sweat to you, nature's WD-40, waterproofing fleeces since before Troy fell. Historians still argue whether Roman bathhouses stole their lint filter tech from Gallic wool washers. The debate's drier than a Pharisee's sandal better to focus on your numb toes. Wooden paddles slap water upstream, thunk slosh, a sound Marcel Marceau would mime if he ditched theater for textiles. You spot the washer's silhouette, her straw hat bent like a croissant left in the rain. She's humming a tune banned during the 100 Years' War for being too catchy. Your throat tightens. Is that wood smoke or the ghost of last night's wine? Doesn't matter. The river's pulling you into its rhythm. Left bank, right bank, repeat. 16th century tax records show Parisian drapers paid triple for Loire-washed wool. Apparently grime sinks better here. A trout flashes its belly near your boot scales, glittering like a disco ball's bastard child. You have expected to cough up a wedding ring or a rusty musket ball. Instead, it spits a bubble that pops with the word merci. Sleep deprivation's a hell of a drug. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Seriously, if corporate synergy had a smell, it'd be this wool's wet dog aroma. Drop your nearest river's name and current time below. I'll judge your time zone choices over camembert later. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Cold nips your knuckles as you kneel. The riverbank's black soil stains your jeans like squid ink. 3 willow branches dip their hair into the current nature's own washboard scrubbing sins from thread. This bend in the Loire holds Neolithic pollen grains in its mud. If you squint, you can almost see Mesolithic hipsters arguing about hemp versus flax. A tin cup floats by enamel chipped, handle bent, might belonged to a WWI while you writing home about trenches and thread counts. The water's so clear you spot quartz veins in granite, frozen lightning bolts trapped beneath France. Since Vulcan had a bad day at the forge, your palm skims the surface, shockingly mild for April. Miniature whirlpools spiral around submerged stones, liquid corkscrews spinning wool fibers counterclockwise. Scientists say it's turbulence. Locals swear it's the river combing tangles from sheep hair. Who's right? Ask the crayfish scribbling runes in the silt. Distant church bells toll 7, or is it 8? Time shreds like wet parchment here. You're pretty sure that's a water vole watching from the reeds, judging your city slicker posture. It blinks once before diving, slick fur, cutting the current like an oiled bullet. A submerged log becomes a dragon's spine when you squint, scales replaced by moss, fire replaced by minnows darting through rib gaps. Reality's overrated anyway. Brine rises in your sinuses, part river funk, part memory of a childhood beach where you collected seashells that smelled like disappointment. Vultures circle high above, or maybe crows. Either way, they're eyeing your vulnerability to poetic melancholy. Don't give them satisfaction. Focus on the wool instead, its fibers swelling like arteries pumping rainwater instead of blood. You settle onto a lichen-crusted rock, the granite's cold, seeping through denim. 23 heartbeats pass before you notice the sound's gone. No paddles, no birds, just the Loire licking rocks like a mother cleaning her child's scraped knee. Even rivers hold their breath sometimes. Your hands sink into the fleece, still caked with last week's pasture. That lanolin scent wraps around you, part wet dog, part melted crayons. Across the valley, church bells mark tears, the mid-morning prayer watch abandoned for work. Historians still argue whether 12th century shepherds really sang to their flocks or just yelled at strays. You find burrs knotted deep, 3 summers' worth of alpine hitchhickers. Each tuft hums with memory, time crushed under hoof, meadow grass yellowed by August sun. 3 warblers dive overhead, their shadows stitching the wool with quick black threads. Back when Charlemagne ruled, Loire shepherds bred dogs so smart they could count sheep. The skill died with the Habsburgs. Modern collars just bark at bicycles. Something glints in the crimped fibers, a mica chip from the old Roman road. Your thumbnail tests its edge. Same quartz veins that guided pilgrims to Compostela. Local lore claims certain fleeces blush pink before thunderstorms, wool as barometer. A ewe's sneeze left this salt crust here, or maybe it's bred flour from that Marseille trader. You'll never know. The sheep aren't talking. Wool thickens where neck meets, withers, the sheep's armor against winter drafts. Medieval fullers paid double for these patches. Weavers called them cloud leather. Your pinky traces a spiral pattern. Bordeaux shepherds still brand lambs with this corkscrew mark. It matches the carvings on menhir stones, the ones tourists keep trying to lick. Beneath the grease lies a single blue thread, escaped from some dyer's apron centuries back. You imagine it whispering to the other fibers, teaching them chlorophyll rebellion. When Napoleon's troops requisitioned Loire wool, they missed this cobalt stowaway. Now it's your secret, a smuggled sky shard in the golden mass. The first water hits like a gasp. Lanolin blooms sudden and bold, nature's conditioner, fighting the stream's persistent fingers. You watch fibers flex, thousands of tiny hinges waking from their grease coma. That crimp isn't just curl, it's architecture. Roman engineers copied wools, wave pattern for their aqueduct bricks. Your elbow brushes a submerged rock, slick, with a millennium of sheep sweat and river slime. 10-year-old, you would have called this gross. 30-year-old, you recognize as patina. 3 women upstream beat linen against stones, their rhythm syncing with your scrubbing. Their grandmothers probably clashed over whose turn it was to use the softest sandbar. A tuft breaks free, drifting toward the reeds to confuse some future archaeologist. Largemouth bass nuzzle the edges, fishy quilt critics debating textile merits. That escaped fluff will outlive us all. Pet Scansel find it in river sediment cores. You mentally apologize to grad students digging here in 2124. Suds form lazy constellations, a Milky Way of sheep fat and ash soap. One bubble catches the light, just so, temporary prism showing every color wool refused to become. You half expect a micro-sheep to float inside, ready to start the whole process over. The Loire doesn't care about human clocks. It's been cleaning Messidor month mud since before the Franks named it. Your fingers cramp around the wool's stubborn core, the part that remembers being skin. This close, the fibers look like golden cables, each one braided with 5 lesser strands. Geneticists say that twist evolved to foil moth jaws, nature's version of a bike lock. You wonder if the first human to touch unwashed wool gagged or marveled. Probably both, same as your first sip of whiskey. Water darkens the fleece 3 shades deeper, ancestral dirt becoming river offering. That Phoenician dye master was right, clean wool drinks color faster. Too bad he got trampled by his own indigo oxen. Legends say his ghost still hunts for the perfect rinse cycle. You glance over your shoulder, just a heron judging your technique. The last burr lets go with a pop, launching itself into the current like a teen fleeing chores. 3 strokes later, the fleece finally unclenches, river water seeping into places sunlight hasn't touched since the shear. You feel the shift, raw earthiness giving way to something hungry for transformation. Those fibers aren't just clean, they're eager. The current tugs the wool from your grip, a patient theft perfected over centuries. You see fibers flare like alarmed cat fur each strand, resisting, then yielding to the stream's logic. Beneath your toes, river stones thrum with submerged industry, their polished backs humming Gregorian low notes. 12 generations of washers wore these rocks smooth. Your souls read their labor like braille. A bloodsucker leech drifts by, its undulations mocking the wool's frantic swirls. You flick it toward shore. Napoleon's troops once packed these parasites into wounds as makeshift sutures. The leech lands on a waterlogged oak plank, the last remnant of a medieval merchant raft. Iron nails still jut from the wood, Romanesque spikes that outlived their cargo of goose feathers and saffron. Lanolin swirls in dendritic patterns, ghostly trees blooming, then disintegrating. 3 fat carp rise to sip the oily rain, their whiskered mouths working like antique bilge pumps. Historians still debate whether Loire boatmen navigated by these fishes' movements, or just got drunk on barley beer. You side with the beer theory. The carp seem terrible navigators. The wool dips under a miniature rapid, re-emerging with its memory rearranged. What was matted now floats loose, fibers aligning like iron filings near a lodestone. You spot a quivering air bubble trapped near the root end, a perfect sphere of nothingness. It's the wool's first breath since leaving the sheep's back, a scream rendered in vacuum. Your forearm brushes something colder than the stream, a vein of groundwater seeping from limestone beds. This alkaline intrusion was the secret behind Tour 9th century textile monopoly. Their wool-absorbed dyes 3 shades deeper. The knowledge died when rival dyers accidentally burned the guild's recipe caves. Now it's just your elbow registering a chill, history reduced to biology. A dragonfly skims the turbulence, its shadow stitching wool and water together. Its thorax flashes Tour de France yellow, a color no medieval peasant ever saw. You imagine explaining neon pigments to a 1300s washerwoman. She'd either crown you a saint or drown you as a witch, depended on the harvest. Grit escapes the wool in comet trails, swirling sediments that glow when the light hits just so. Each particle contains a story: sheep teeth grinding quartz, hooves pulverizing shale, wind-borne Sahara, dust from last April's storm. The Loire claims these minerals now. Riverbank raspberries will taste earthier come June. Your left foot finds a depression worn by 10,000 toes, an ergonomic gift from the plague generation. Their callouses ground this stone bowl smooth, while fleas partied in their socks. You shift weight and feel time compress arch support spanning 6 centuries. Sun warms the nape of your neck, a counterpoint to the stream's chill. Photons bounce off wet wool into your eyes, golden hour cubed. Renaissance painters would have killed for this light. Caravaggio actually did kill someone over lesser pigments. His loss, you've got living amber in your fists. The fleece starts its spin cycle, a lazy clockwise spiral perfected by the river's tilt. 18 pebbles gleam up through thrashing fibers, a SOS in no known alphabet. Archaeologists found similar patterns pressed into Celtic prayer stones, their meaning lost to acidic soil and scholarly bickering. You intercept a runaway lock of wool thicker than the rest and oddly sticky. Tree sap, honeycomb traces, beeswax waterproofing from some long-dead shepherd's lunch tin. The river licks it clean before you decide, nature's janitor on overtime. Suddenly, the mass lightens, water plucks impurities you didn't know existed. Medieval fullers called this moment the wool's second birth, though their apprentices probably named it something cruder. You watch two pebbles tumble free, chalk-white twins that'll spend millennia rolling toward the Atlantic. Midday sun reveals the truth. Those golden strands were never truly yellow. The cleaned wool glows bone white, the color of sheep's skulls under a harvest moon. Genetics insist this flock carried brown fleeces. Sun and stream conspire to bleach what biology made. Blisters rise unannounced, your palms writing protest letters in puffy script. 10th grade home ec class didn't cover this. Mrs. Robbles was too busy confiscating, sewing needles turned tattoo guns. The river whispers an ointment recipe, plantain leaves crushed with goose grease. You'll forget it by supper, modernity's curse. Across the stream, a kingfisher dive bombs its reflection, a miniature kamikaze, confusing wool for rivals. Its failure loops every 7 minutes. Avian groundhog, day meets OCD. You count 3 attempts before noticing the wool has drifted, untangled, while you played zoologist. Lactic acid builds in your shoulders, that specific burn Renaissance laundresses called St. Agnes, Kiss, the patron saint of spinsters and sore deltoids, must be weeping with pride. Your triceps beg for medieval wages, paid in rye bread and immunity to pox. The fleece finally submits, its last secrets dissolved into a million chalky swirls. What remains shines with reluctant purity, threads plumped up like overfed grubs. You lift the mass and marvel water streams down in chaotic braids. The Loire's teeth did their work, shearing away history, until nothing remains but potential. Somewhere downstream, a frog hesitates before leaping onto the banks. Even amphibians know better than to touch newly washed wool. Their 14th century cousins allegedly croaked warnings to night washers. Or maybe villagers just blamed amphibians for wet socks. Either way, the frog hops left. You approve its judgment. Their laughter cracks the dawn first, raspy chuckles that scatter the kingfisher. You turn to see 7 women wading in, sun-browned legs, parting the current like reed knives. Their skirts ride high, bloomers blinking white as sheep bellies, practical modesty forgotten at water's edge. The eldest stoops, her palm skims the surface like a hydrotherapy nun testing bathwater. She nods approval. Lye levels must still linger from autumn's ash harvest. Too sour eats threads, too sweet just tickles dirt. She mutters, proverb or hangover remedy. Her fingers comb through your washed wool, appraising tensions unseen. Callouses catch fibers they rasp like bowstrings across a cello bridge. These hands span generations. Her great-great-aunt's thumbprint still presses coins at Tours Cathedral relic box. Modern archivists debate whether it's wax or sanctified pus. You decide not to ask. A teen giggles while tying her braids. The sound splashes brighter than her ankle bracelets. She dunks a hank of unwashed fleece violently, revenge against some boyfriend's ghost. The women chant work songs, borrowed from Viking yarn twisters, rhythms warped by 6 centuries of lazy mouths. Historians still argue whether Fuller's foot stomps were timekeepers or just swamp foot itch relief. Someone passes a clay jug. Vinegar stings your nostrils before the sip hits. It's worse than monastic mouthwash. Medieval Fullers drank this stuff to balance the waters. Their pea barrels supposedly produced superior lye, though most recipes conveniently omit that fermentation step. The aftertaste suggests rumors were true. Wooden paddles appear, their handles worn into hourglass waists. The teen slaps water in perfect triplets, soaking her tunic's front. Elders cluck approval. Damp cloth reveals character, they say. You note they're all prudently backlit. A gnarled fist shoves lye cakes at you, rough lumps, resembling pioneer aspirin. The recipes carved into Rocha Corbin's oldest bakery wall, right below toddler height bite marks. Measurements read like witchcraft. 3 crows' hops of ash, 7 widows' sighs, 1 shaved priest collar. You knead it like cookie dough gone feral. Fleeces sink into the chalky bath. Water boils with chemical divorces. Lanolin flees the fibers. Oily refugees forming prismatic slicks. Watch close now. Cackles the jug passer, her teeth stained walnut from decades of tannin tea. The fats leaving it'll come back as river ghosts come winter. Hands plunge into the froth, steam, unhooking age from knuckles. They scrub in counterpoint, left circles, right crosshatches, a lifetime's muscle shorthand. You mimic them, earning a snort when your strokes mismatch. Children first time, croons the elder, patting your wrist like a misbehaving loom. The teen mouths embarrassing behind her shoulder. Sudden ammonia whiffs prune your sinuses. Liberated sheep sweat rising in vengeful clouds. The women inhale deeply, their faces softening. Smells like payday. Size 1, nostalgia overpowering biology. They debate whose herd stank worst last spring. Consensus landing on Pierre's rams. Pissed clover and arrogance. Lye burns bloom on your wrists. Happy little accidents mimicking lace trim. The elder slathers on a moss poultice, her version of a band-aid. Saints invented stinging to keep bakers from switching careers. She fibs, winking at the teen. St. Clotild's thumb bone supposedly cures Fuller's rash, the relic now borrowed by a Lyon glove maker. Fleeces rise transformed from storm cloud gray to defeated beige. Paddles herd them downstream, women's biceps, recalling Roman aqueduct engineers. They argue current speeds, using dead metaphors. grandfather's snoring pace versus new bride giggles. Hydrologists take notes 3 centuries too late. The teen starts a splash war, symbolic rebellion over wet hems. Foam arcs catch sunlight, soap rainbows short-lived as mayfly marriages. An elder retaliates with a sediment toss. Muddy Rorschach blooms on the rebel smock. They cackle like geese, laughter dislodging a perched heron upstream. Coins appear as if conjured, 1 sous coins, glinting on wet rocks. The women ignore them. Payment comes after rinsing. You pocket one, noticing Louis XIV's dour face, outnumbered by flea bites. He'd hate knowing his profile funds peasant undergarments. Suddenly quiet, hands still. The wool's ready. You sense it in their straightened spines, washing bells replaced by vertebrae clicks. They lift the fleeces skyward, waterfalls braiding through limp strands. Rivulets chart paths down their necks, liquid salary reinvested in the Loire. The teen wrings her hair, a mermaid denying her land legs. She nods toward your reddened palms, pride disguised as pity. Blisters mean you listened. She lies, knuckling away a lie tear. Her own hands resemble lunar landscapes, craters from forgotten mishaps. Tools vanish into apron pockets. The rituals reverse striptease. The elder presses a wool tuft into your palm, its fibers already forgetting the stream. Plant it under a new moon, she whispers, knowing you'll assume she's joking. Buried wool sprouts dandelions 7 springs straight, or so the liars claim. They retreat up the embankment, leaving wet boot prints as receipts. Dawn's moved on the river reclaims its solo act. Your earlobe still tingles from the teen's conspiratorial snort. Somewhere downstream, a paddle knocks rocks, Morse code for tips appreciated. The jug floats abandoned, half submerged like a tipsy baptismal font. You decline refilling it. Memories of that vinegar kick linger like bad councilmen. Across the stream, the kingfisher's back blue streak, mocking human brevity. It'll feast on lice from the washwomen's hair come dusk, beauty balanced by snack theft. Your borrowed fleece drips ceaselessly, each drop rewriting local water tables. Lie flavors tomorrow's trout dinners. Anglers will bitch about that tangy aftertaste while hoarding seconds. The cycle continues, unseen hands wringing river into livelihood. Heat lifts from the wool invisible sighs, morning's sweat evaporating. You wonder if the Loire misses its pre-human clarity before fleeces and fullers and fermented piss. The current licks your ankles, answer enough. Rivers have no use for nostalgia, only carrying. Golden droplets bloom upstream, lanolin escaping, wool like butter fleeing hot toast. The fat of cold nights, thick grease that kept sheep alive through January squalls, now glides across the Loire's skin. You catch a blob between thumb and forefinger. It shimmers with stolen rainbows. Medieval parchment makers once paid extra for this stuff. Lanolin's waterproof. Magic preserved monastery records better than prayers. 3 ducks paddle through the slick, their feathers gain an avant-garde sheen. One shakes itself into a living oil painting Monet's muse on avloxanthin fumes. Your nostrils twitch grease and riverweed tang. Lanolin's musk punches through the purity charade, still clinging to mammary echoes. A fisherman downstream swears his net now drooping with hydrophobic fish. Every damn spring, he mutters, scraping iridescent goo from his beard. Historians still argue whether Viking sails used lanolin to repel seawater, or if those salty buggers just relied on Thor's bladder. You find a lanolin glob shaped like Corsica, complete with microscopic Bonapartes. Victorian ladies would have fought over this blob. They used sheep grease as hair pomade. Badger blubber was Plan B shampoo. Ads don't mention that part. The elder's voice floats back. Don't lick it, city mouse. You'll crave grass for weeks. Too late, your tongue's already dabbed the slick. Taste buds rage, petroleum, jelly's hillbilly cousin with barnyard afternotes. Sheep dietary habits flash before your eyes, clover, dandelions, the occasional lost mitten. Sunlight fractures through oily prism puddles, holographic stains on wet stones. They'll outlast your fashion sense. You kneel to inspect rivulets. Each strand of wool leaks fat in semaphore. Somewhere a Roman gladius rusts, its scabbard waterproofed by this same goop. A water strider executes figure eights, its legs skateboarding the lipid layer. Physics bends here, viscous drag, turning ripples into taffy. You attempt a leaf boat. It sinks faster than French monarchies. The Loire digests everything eventually. Evening chill resurrects the lanolin. It congeals into amber archipelagos. Your sleeves glisten with accidental couture. DIY, waterproofing better than big brand outerwear. Those Patagonia guys should take notes from Breton shepherdesses. Bats dip low, their sonar pinging biofuel reserves. They leave disappointed. Lanolin's calorie count fooled them. Nature's first false advertising scam. Moonrise turns the river silver. Grease slicks now resemble mercury spillage. Your blisters thank the lanolin, those angry red craters soothed by animal fat. Modern chemists synthesized lanolin substitutes in the 70s. None worked half as good. Grandma knew best. If it leaks from a sheep, slap it on eczema. The Loire burps, a methane choir from decomposing algae below. Lanolin islands wobble in approval. You pocket a pebble coated in golden resin, souvenir, or future candle core. Centuries from now, archaeologists will misunderstand everything. Not a single droplet reaches the sea, stream filtered, bank absorbed, bird carried. Fat molecules enter the food chain via dragonfly wings, circle of life, with extra cholesterol. You shake your head, dismissing the urge to Google if lanolin's kosher. Midnight approaches, the last grease patches dissolving like sugar cubes in absinthe. Wool sleeps heavier now, lighter by the weight of storms it once repelled. Your hands still smell like a farmhand's love letter. Your boots vanish first, sucked into ochre muck that bubbles like porridge. The Loire's mud isn't dirt, it's a mineral cocktail brewed over Jurassic holidays. Limestone ghosts and iron-rich clots swirl around your ankles. Medieval washerwomen called this Earth's lather, their version of Tide Pods, without the fun poisoning risk. Something crunches underfoot, a mussel shell. Pebble. Nope, a goat's molar from Charlemagne's reign. Historians still argue whether Carolingian shepherds brushed livestock teeth with charcoal paste. The evidence stares up at you, fossilized dental hygiene, or snack gone wrong. Mud seeps into wool's last hidey holes, forcing out fleas' eggs and thistle shrapnel. 18th century Parisian laundries imported this silt by the cartload. Napoleon's underwear probably got its final scrub here. You smear a handful across your arm, exfoliation so brutal it could strip wallpaper. A toddler's sock surfaces, perfectly preserved from the Huguenot Wars. Quilted doublets and revolutionaries' pamphlets dissolve nearby. River sludge devours history impartially. Your toes curl around a Roman coin. Trajan's smirk eroded into a narcotic grin. Clay tightens its grip. Each step requires the torque of unbolting a tank. Workers chant dirges against the suction's hunger, their pitch matching Wagner's saddest tuba. Someone's abandoned clog becomes an art installation, filled with tadpoles and existential doubt. The Alchemy's audible now, a wet smack as silt bonds to wool. Your hair collects enough airborne mud to start a boutique pottery studio. Renaissance dyers called this the devil's kick, their way of saying pH balance matters. Moonlight reveals the truth. What looked like mud is mostly pulverized snail shells. 10,000 generations of mollusks ground into nature's Brillo pad. A heron stabs the shallows, emerging with a scarf from the 30 years. War. Linen hates this process. It frays under mud's embrace. But wool thrives in the bullying. You witness strands transform, greasy clumps becoming suave threads, worthy of a Medici's hose. Your favorite rock disappears, swallowed by quicksand's cousin. The washerwomen laugh. They've seen city folk lose shoes, watches, and one memorable toupee. Mud takes what it's owed. They croon, a warning and lullaby. Dawn leaks through willows, exposing wool's metamorphosis. Fiber by fiber, the grime surrenders. What emerges isn't white, it's the color of silence. Palace bedsheets envy this purity. Archaeologists will misinterpret these mud pits as ancient spa resorts. Let them. You felt the Loire's knuckles kneading cloth, the oldest laundry service still in operation. One washerwoman shows her palms, riverbed topography etched into every crease. Her lifeline forks where a sheep's rib once snagged the skin. The mud claims stories faster than ink on papyrus. You try the twist-press-twist motion they taught you, muscles rebel. It's like wringing out a thundercloud. The eldest clucks, her hands moving with the ease of a windmill's sail. When the last basket rises, its wool glowing like peeled almonds, the mud releases you. Your soles bear topographic maps of the riverbed. Every step home will whisper of ochre secrets. You wade toward the river's next act, edged by a crumbling stone jetty. Submerged baskets dot the current like mossy church bells. Each braided rim trembles, plucking water into a rhythmic hymns. Your knee brushes something colder than the Loire, a rusted choir stand from Louis XIV's court. Historians still argue whether Versailles musicians practiced with drowned harpsichords. The metal's pitted surface hums a B-flat, laundry day meets Baroque recital. Eddies twine around your shins, liquid hands improvising fugues. Rotting willow roots become cello bows, their groans syncopated with sloshing wool. You count the beats between submerged rocks, 8 heartbeats. 11, no pattern emerges. A fish surfaces with unexpected flair, its mouth bubbles approximating a trill. Even the carp here grasp showmanship. Some washerwomen insist certain bends in the river echo Gregorian chants. The water remembers monks laundering robes upstream. Others blame fermented berry mash in their flasks. Your paddle strikes a hollow log. It exhales with the timbre of a didgeridoo. The sound startles a kingfisher, its indignant squawk completing the chord. 16th century dyers allegedly tuned vats to specific keys, claiming C minor softened wool best. No surviving manuscripts confirm this, only a lute tablature scribbled on a die ledger. Baskets bob like metronomes, their sway synced to underground springs. 10 paces downstream, a whirlpool spirals into perfect counterpoint. You're ankle-deep in polyphony now, nature's orchestra pit. Something glints beneath a rock, a tarnished pitch pipe from a 1920s village choir. The engraving's worn, but Vierge Marie Laundry collective hints at heavenly harmonies. Rivers recycle everything, including ambition. Morning light fractures through the current, projecting watery sheet music onto the banks. You follow a stave of dancing mayflies, their wings brushing semicircle notes. 17th century wash house ledgers mention paying river musicians to play lutes during rinsing. Whether human or supernatural, the entries get vague. A caddisfly larva drags its stone casing across your toe. A basso continue to the Loire's aria. Even the tiniest players contribute. The washerwomen's chants rise in call and response, each verse dissolving into liquid vibrato. You spot a boulder etched with crescent shapes, Celtic moon phases, or medieval laundry symbols. Academics bicker, their papers drier than sun-bleached flax. The rock's real magic. It refracts whispers upstream, layering gossip from 3 villages into dissonant rounds. Your cupped hands lift river water. It spills through your fingers in arpeggios. A brewer from Tours once tried bottling these liquid chorales. The venture ended in tonal vinegar. 2 eddies collide midstream, their collision birthing a perfect minor third. The vibration resonates in your molars. Athenian monks would have killed for this acoustics, if killing fit their brand. Mist rises, ventriloquizing the river's melody through fog. Each droplet carries a microtone. Your clothes absorb the sound, wool, fibers thrumming like violin strings. The washerwomen wave you toward the shallows, their arms conducting unseen musicians. As you retreat, the Loire's chorale fades into a lullaby of lapping stones. Your ears retain the watermark, a phantom cadence where current meets memory. The sun climbs higher, its rays pressing down like an impatient fuller's hands. Linen cords stretch taut between oak stakes. Each creaking protest echoes across the meadow. You squint at woolens laid like sacrificial offerings, their damp edges curling toward noon's glare. 16th century dyers tracked evaporation by counting pebbles moved between baskets, 1 stone per hour of direct light. An abbess's diary claims Saints Lawrence and Bartholomew fought over drying rights. Hence, August's scorching holy wars between clothiers. Historians still argue whether shadow lattices were weaving blueprints or desperate attempts to entertain bored apprentices. Your shadow pools at your feet, a puddle of self rapidly evaporating. Rivulets retreat from fabric, snaking toward the Loire's embrace like prodigal droplets. You catch a whiff of lanolin, surrendering to heat, sheep sweat, transforming into honeyed steam. Beetles march across a stranded washboard, their polished shells mimicking condensation beads. One pauses, raising forelegs like a tiny conductor, celebrating the aria of dryness. A willow cracks its knuckles overhead. Poplar seed fluff drifts into makeshift abacuses. Women tally fluff, strands caught on thistles. 23, meaning 4 more drying hours. Napoleon's quartermasters commissioned linen sundials for conscripts, uniforms timed to dry between musket drills. The wooden gears, warped, most became kindling by Borodino. Heat conjures mirages, puddles shimmering where none exist. You pivot toward a phantom splash, nearly tripping over a stone counting frame sunk into turf. Its grooves hold 9 quartz pebbles, noon's stolen trophies. Legends claim druids embedded hot stones to steal the sun's math, their rituals buried under Christian laundry. Skeptics note how conveniently pagan sites align with medieval bleaching fields. A child's forgotten straw hat crowns a post, its brim warped into a solar parabola. Through the weave, you watch light fracture into lace across your palm. 13th century illuminators allegedly ground such shadows into pigment. Calligraphers, sunblack ink. Modern chemists found only soot and wishful thinking. Something crunches underfoot, a goose quill nib wedged between rocks. Its split tip suggests frantic calculations, margins of some sun-drunk scholar's ledger. You imagine sweat dripping onto parchment, equations dissolving into Rorschach blooms. 18th century tacksmen accused weavers of encrypting yields in shadow lengths. Audits required sundials and sextants. The Loire whispers behind you its music, dimmed to the rub of wet silk. Grasshoppers tap their legs against hot stones, thermometric trills rising with the mercury. You peel a oak leaf from your elbow, its veins, mirroring the meadow's drainage channels. 5 centuries back, this field grew madder root for red dyes. Now it eats sunlight, chewing radiance into usable metrics. A woman tosses a hemp rope skyward, testing the air's hunger. It uncoils like Newton's apple stem, hanging mid-plunge before she catches it. 3 twists dry, she declares, though you counted 4. Her grandmother swore a hanged man noose once drenched 6 counties, evaporating only after the corpse's last confession. Shadows bleed into wool, indigo patterns reawakening as moisture flees. What was midnight blue now whispers cerulean, a reverse sunset starched into cloth. You step over a fossilized horse hoof, Cretaceous keratin, outlasting both flax and kings. Someone's hung a sodden tunic over it. Jurassic Park meets Laundry Day. Beneath, a hawthorn's skeletal shade, a cider jug sweats itself empty. The smell triggers ancestral memories, Norman orchards press-ganged into summer service. An 1893 temperance pamphlet blamed apple vapors for careless linen shrinkage, wives dozing off as sheets burned crisp. The western horizon starts yawning, gold seeping into azure like chamomile tea. Women unpin undershirts with surgical care, fabric memories of riverbeds clinging to each thread. You pocket a stray thistlehead. Its conical shape matches the iron weights on drying racks. Tomorrow it'll nest in your notebook, a guerrilla textbook on solar geometry. Coolness rises from the Loire, first tentative notes of evening's overture. But the meadow still hums, a hive mind tallying photons like amber beads. Your boot sole tears a cobweb stretched between stakes. The spider salvages silk without rancor. 8th wonder of the world, how arachnids endure humanity's steamroller ballet. Light bleeds itself pale. The counting frames, stones now throw longer shadows than they catch. You retreat toward the tree line, backing away from some elemental transaction, best left unspoken. Wool stiffens into parchment ready for any story, even yours. You tread where spring lambs once nibbled clover, their phantom teeth still trimming the grass to velvet. Washed wool stretches taut beneath your gaze, pale ropes tethering this meadow to distant winters. A breeze carries the musk of vanished flocks, lanolin and dung, transformed into spectral perfumery. Charlemagne's tax codes taxed sheep by the quality of their bleats. Lower pitches cost extra. Your heel sinks into loam that remembers hooves, centuries of ovine tap dancing, preserved in soil strata. That hawthorn ahead wears a fleece cuff, last summer's straggler caught mid-escapade. You pluck a tuft, its fibers still holding the shape of the ewe's flank. Medieval carters believed thorns imprinted wool with protective sigils, a hedge against moth invasions. The barbed points snag your sleeve anyway, nature's invoice for trespassing. Water murmurs counterpoint to absent bleeding, the Loire humming what the flock once throat-sung. Historians still argue whether 13th century shepherds timed washes by star clusters or just got drunk on fermented ewe's milk. Beneath a silt shelf, rustic scissors surface barnacle-like. Theirs was the original close shave, shearing blades lost mid-snip. You kneel where the bank remembers wool, its mud permanently waved from countless rinses. Tiny calcium deposits glint, the stream's autograph on clean fibers. A 1920s hoax claimed Celtic weavers wove with unicorn hair, carbon dating, revealed ordinary Angora. The scam lives on in tavern tallies, 3 pints in. Every local's cousin knew the dyer. Dragonflies stitch shadows to the water, their needly legs quilting light onto the stream. One alights on your knee, living brooch from the river's accessory collection. Its wings flex, microscopic veins mirroring wool's unraveled strands. Napoleon's engineers copied similar patterns for pontoon bridges, collapsing mid-river when silk mimics split. A submerged basket rocks, its contents long scavenged by current and crayfish. You trace its woven ribs, fingers reading braille tales of pickerel and thyme. 10 generations of rushes grew here, each sacrificed to hold someone else's labor. Modern archaeologists found lamb's milk residue in Bronze Age, combs proof of pampered flocks, or sloppy dishwashing. Twilight bleeds upstream, the first stars reflected in wool's residual damp. You spot a tern diving where ewes once waded, biology's pun on washing fleece. Farmers whispered that shadow sheep graze here at midnight, their wool glowing like waterlogged moons. Try mentioning that at a shearing festival. See how fast the cider stops flowing. The hill's contour feels too deliberate, too kind to tired herders. Turns out Cistercian monks terraced these banks for humane grazing, medieval ESG farming. Their wool sails built cathedrals, divine ROI financed by ovine comfort. Your boot dislodges a monk's discarded whetstone, still sharp enough to score cynicism. Moths perform their twilight reconnaissance, soft bombers drawn by the day's lingering warmth. You flick one off a drying rack. Its wings leave more dust than your grandma's powder compact. 16th century guilds find workers for moth holes unless you blamed the Virgin's needlework. Academics clash over whether sheep rain chronicles were meteorological reports or just poets romanticizing shed winter coats. You pocket a curled ram's horn shard, its growth rings tighter than a miser's purse. Hold it to your ear. The Loire's song shifts to a salt-crusted galleon's creak. Moonlight lacquers the field, washed wool becomes a patchwork of tarnished silver. You inhale the ghost of 100-year-old pastures, an olfactory seance of clover and crow's foot. That rock there, not a rock, a petrified sheep's skull grinning at human industry. Its hollow sockets watch you tally mortality rates. 1 in 3 spring lambs never saw snowfall. A fish jumps where the shallows deepens. Its splash dissolves into the rhythm of chewing cud. You half expect wool strands to grow grass, a textile's photosynthesis fantasy. Instead, they stiffen into parchment, hieroglyphs, waiting for some future scribe's delusions. Dampness rises the earth, reclaiming its sweated-out humidity. Your shadow stretches eastward, tangled in wool's lengthening silhouettes. Two histories lie knotted here, one of fleece and water, the other of hands that never quite vanish. Tomorrow the looms will clatter, but tonight the meadow hosts a reunion of ghosts. You wade into shin-deep current, water colder than a tax collector's smile. Your toes locate the submerged rhythm. The fullers shuffle older than cobblestones. 16th century guild apprentices paid in lye burns and knee callouses, their hazing ritual writ in pumice scrapes. The Loire licks your calves, its chill creeping up like spilled gossip. Historians still argue whether medieval fullers added urine after dark, secret ingredient or drunken accident. A flat rock teeters underfoot, its mossy top worn concave by 10,000 pivots. You mimic the spiral tread pattern, one revolution per muttered prayer. Lebanese cedar resins were found in Pompeii's fuller vats. Roman outsourcing before outsourcing was cool. Your heel slips, the stream swallows your dignity, along with a left sandal. Clouds of sediment bloom downstream, wool's sins purged in real time. A water strider skates across your submerged knee, nature's QC inspector signing off. 18th century Parisian dandies thought mud-streaked woolworkers' legs were fashion statements. Cue the peasant patina rouge craze. The joke's on them. You're achieving that au natural look gratis. 3 dunked and lifted cycles, the wool's breath held between soaks. Your palms press fabric against riverbed stones, a wrestling match with entropy. 8 pounds of pressure per square inch, the sweet spot scrawled in some dead monk's margin notes. Miss by an ounce, you're either making felt or kindling. That oak upstream hosted generations of lunch breaks, its bark carved with wool weights and lovers' initials. Your thumbnail traces a 1347 glyph, weather-worn stick figure. Mid-shuffle, archaeologists found plantain poultice residue nearby. Occupational hazards demand occupational remedies. Rain begins, needle pricks on water skin. You pivot faster, rhythm compensating for slick rocks. A 1903 textile strike pamphlet hid recipes in its margins, martyrdom, and mutton stew sharing pages. The bosses never checked past the incendiary headlines, comfort food as covert rebellion. Sun cracks the clouds, river suddenly all tarnished nickels and glare. Your shadow joins the dance, a pantomime partner with terrible timing. Renaissance painters used fuller's earth to mute canvas hues. Accidental alchemy birthed half the old master's skies. Blisters form where callouses will be future armor against tomorrow's stupidity. You hum a Gascon washing song, lyrics sanitized for mixed company. The original version blamed the king's mistress for stiff linen, folk music's first diss track. Twilight arrives with its usual lack of paperwork. shifts end measured in numb toes. You wring out your tunic, a concession to dignity downstream. 19th century factory bosses installed steam-powered mechanical feet. Workers promptly sabotaged them with sheared wool. The bank cradles your exhaustion, grass still flattened from yesterday's retreat. A crawdad drags your lost sandal past, its prize secured with indignant claws. Historians will call this biodegradable archaeology in 5 centuries. You call it Tuesday. Stars emerge as wool's final rinse, the Milky Way mirroring submerged fibers. Your hands smell of wet sheep and stubborn hope. Somewhere downstream, a pebble dislodges the river's quiet applause. Moonlight lacquers the damp skeins. They droop like liquid silver over willow racks. Your palms hover an inch above, feeling residual river warmth through night air. 17th century weavers timed drying phases by coughing fits. Tuberculosis made better metronomes than hourglasses. The strands flirt with stiffness, tautness arriving breath by stolen breath. A barn owl hoots, night shift foreman checking your progress. You brush a thumb over fibers. They murmur like unopened love letters. 18th century Marseille, weavers smuggled messages in thread patterns. Textile espionage, paid better than actual wages. Historians still argue whether Napoleon's underwear contained battle plans. Linen is a harsh mistress. Your kneecap remembers the loom bench, that dent where generations of buttocks nested. Splinters whisper, promises through your trousers, free acupuncture with every lateral pass. Someone carved J. Chanany 1412 near the warp beam, a name worn smoother than her shuttle. Leaning closer, the scent of ancient sweat stains the wood. Austrian monks once blessed looms with beer, dribbling lagers across heddles for luck. You consider the emergency flask in your satchel, strictly for sacramental purposes. Unbleached threads glow like fault lines the warp, a skeleton awaiting flesh. Your pinky traces the first cross-stitch, gateway drug to textile obsession. Pre-Columbian Peruvians wove goggles into fabric. Alpaca, will eye protection against mountain glare. You squint at your own creation, optimism outweighing craft. A bat dive bombs the lantern, your shadow panics on the wall. Tension springs twang like off-key sitars. Loom music, never charted for good reason. Tudor apprentices feared Friday nights. Masters made them weave drunk to test precision. Results included codpiece-shaped dish rags. Your elbows become pendulum weights, left, right, left metronome, drilling into dusk. The shuttle kisses your palm, its birchwood belly polished by dead women's thumbs. Modern recreations use 3D printed versions. Historians weep into their polyester blends. 8 passes in, the rhythm colonizes your cerebellum. Beat 1, breathe in. Beat 2, exhale through teeth. Byzantine silk weavers allegedly encoded heresies in brocade. Their necks paid the weft. You stick to basic chevrons, martyrdoms overrated. Crickets sink with Treadle Creek's nature's unpaid backup singers. Your big toe finds the groove, that sweet spot, avoiding splinters. A 1920s study claimed rhythmic weaving cured gout, peer review disagreed. Your joints vote nay. Moonlight fades, dawn peels back the sky's bandages. 16th century patterns swim behind your lids, every knot a parenthesis in cloth's grammar. Flemish weavers doped sheep with beer for softer fleece. Animal welfare took a timeout. 3 misaligned threads glare up. They know what they did. You enact corrective measures, learned violence with a darning needle. Medieval Norwich fined weavers for errors, with wool-forced apologies to customers. Outrage stays free. The first birdsong slices through, a woodlark's aria wasted on mortal ears. Your creation inches forward, half prayer rug, half dishcloth. To notched at lawns weavers spun feather thread, so fine it dissolved in rain. Hubris via hummingbirds. Red thread bleeds into ecru, rust dye from last week's experiment. A Royal Society report once blamed poor weaving for crop failure's cause and effect took a holiday. Your stomach growls, the true agricultural crisis. Sun licks the eastern fields gold, plundering the last shadows. You step back, blinking at the wonky miracle. 5 generations of spiders nod in their cobwebbed rafters, juries still out. A breeze riffles the cloth. It flutters like amateur semaphore in Kishlansky's 1678 diary. My steward's stockings spoke of moral decline. Puritan weave shaming at its peak. Your toes wiggle in solidarity. The church bell tolls 7 times to pretend you've slept. Charles the Bald's coronation robe took 19 weavers, but his monks got all the credit. You secure the brake cord. Kindergarten scissors never looked so lethal. Ashes from the night's brazier cling to your hem, volcanic fallout from yesterday's mistakes. You exit as the loom's shadow stretches west, its hunger for thread unsated. Somewhere downstream, the river licks its lips. Moonlight glazes the Loire's midnight loops, its current gnawing last crusted lanolin from submerged fleece. Your soles sink in cool silt, the riverbed memorizing trespassers. 16th century fullers worked graveyard shifts. Their guild laws forbade moonlit washing as thieving time. The wool disagrees. It ripples like obsidian kelp beneath the stars. Phosphate ghosts rise where suds dissolved. Bioluminescent algae bloom in their absence. 19th century Parisians swore these lights were drowned washerwomen's souls. Scientists blamed rotting willow roots. You trail fingers through cold fire. It clings like liquid cobwebs. Historians still argue whether night washing improved quality or just hid sloppy work from gossips. A fish nudges your ankle, silvery side, flashing coded warnings. Your toes clench river mud. Each wrinkle becomes a braille confessional. Moon-bleached stones hum Gregorian chants. Or is that blood singing in your ears? Natched crap, legends whisper through drowned reeds. Germanic bogeymen who stole unwashed wool for nest lining. You pull your hem higher, just in case. The water tastes of forgotten quarries, limestone dissolving, since Charlemagne's stewards reigned. A barn owl's cry unspools overhead, nature's shuttle through night's loom. Your palms skim a half-washed fleece, its fibers sighing secrets to the current. Medieval Bologna kept night washers chained to drying racks, preventing rival cities stealing soap techniques. Your wrists feel phantom manacles. Sudden cold swirls around your calves, submerged springs leaking winter's last words. You step on something curved, a clay pipe stem from Napoleon's infantry, or just river-tumbled bone. 17 fireflies mimic the constellation Lyra, drifting verdicts on your washing form. A viper slithers upshore, its scales rejecting aqueous judgments. Dawn's first yawn pales the east, the river spits back yesterday's suds as foam. Your footprints fill with liquid shadow, negatives of souls that walked Moorish dye vats. Ottoman washermen used pigeon blood for stubborn stains. Their manuals omitted the feathery protests. The last phosphorescence fades, daylight exposing moss-bearded rocks. Your wet shift clings like a second conscience, Loire's chill seeping into marrow. A kingfisher jabs the surface, its beak extracting light instead of fish. You wade shoreward, each step heavier than wool-laden baskets. The night's work clings to fiber and bone, invisible until dry. 3 bullfrogs croak lazy applause, ripe critique from mud-throned judges. Blisters rise on your palms, badges from water's relentless caress. You collapse on dew-laced grass, river still murmuring its endless washing psalm. Sleep comes as heron wings blot out stars, the true night shift supervisor heading home. Dawn's second act paints the bank, strokes of peach light, reviving last night's trampled grass. An old woman kneels by the Loire, her hands moving as if untangling time itself. Her granddaughter mirrors each twist of the wrists, a clumsy echo of gestures perfected over graves. You recognize the cadence, twist press twist, the same rhythm that baffled Merovingian monks recording fuller guild secrets. The girl fumbles a sodden fleece. It slaps the water like a drowned goose. Her grandmother laugh rasps like river-smoothed pebbles. Your great-aunt Margot's washed King Louis hunting shirts, stained with boar blood and bad decisions. You note the historical flex. Versailles, ledgers confirm washerwomen earned more than court musicians. The girl scowls, teenage rebellion melting under ancestral weight. Calloused fingers correct the child's grip, pressing knuckles into wool as if kneading memory into fiber. You spy a willow paddle wedged in the reeds, its handle worn smooth by 5 generations of palms. Quirky detail. The original carver allegedly dipped it in unicorn urine. Skeptics suggest it was just sour wine. Either way, it outlived 4 French republics. Water sluices through the girl's fists, carrying away doubt, but not the lanolin sting. Feel when the threads align. The elder murmurs language older than her dentures. Historians still argue whether these techniques jumped from Roman bathhouse attendants or bubbled up from Gaulish mud. You side with the mud theory. It explains the persistent duckweed. A kingfisher dives, snatching a silver minnow beside the girl's elbow. She barely flinches, centuries of washerwomen's concentration in her slouched spine. The grandmother's sleeves ride up, revealing a tattooed line of dashes. One mark per grandchild trained, she explains, though you wonder if it's just tallying stolen wineglasses. Noon heat warps the air, their shadows pool into a single silhouette. The girl's fingers finally find the rhythm, fibers yielding like tired secrets. You imagine Viking raiders, socks scrubbed in this bend, their bloodstains fading into someone else's history. The paddle emerges, dripping ancestral water back into the now. Generations condense in the flick of a wrist. The Loire licks its banks, indifferent to the fact Charlemagne's concubines demanded silk. Instead, you blink, suddenly seeing 12 women superimposed on the shoreline. Their hands move in unison, a time lapse of muscle and river. Even the flies hover respectfully. The girl stands, knees creaking like green wood. Her masterpiece drips on a hawthorn bush, already sprouting next decade's apprentice. The old woman nods, one dash ready to be inked. You pocket a pebble smoothed by their labor, because tourism demands cheap souvenirs. Twilight arrives early here. It's just the willow's shadow swallowing the shore. Their tools lie abandoned on a flat stone temporary as dynasties. You press your palm against the paddle's ghostly grip. Cold lingers, or maybe that's just the Loire whispering through your veins. The night shift will return soon, but for now, the river cradles only echoes. Moonlight pales your stolen pebble, its edges worn softer than the wool it polished. Dawn's first blush reveals the real loot, hundreds of sun-bleached fleeces strung between elms. They hang like phantom sheep, ghosting the meadow with thirst for color. You squint at the nearest bundle, threads so parched they'd swallow the Loire itself. History lesson. Medieval dyers paid taxes in woad leaves, those cabbage-like plants that stain everything except accountants' souls. A wagon creaks into view, its cargo reeks of fermented urine. Quirky fact, Tudor England's top dye fixers were called piss prophets, alchemists who judged vat readiness by piss pH. The driver gives you a nod, his teeth yellowed by career choices. You resist sniffing the air. Mistake number 1. Indigo vats bubble like swamp witches' cauldrons, a stench of ammonia and desperation. Better than saffron, mutters an apprentice. That stuff costs more than your mother's forgiveness. His joke lands like a sodden fleece, ignored but culturally accurate. Fingers drum on dye barrels. Someone hums a troubadour's tune badly. Historians still argue whether royal purple was ever dyed here or just smuggled in from snail-rich coasts. You imagine a cardinal's robe soaked in this stinking vat. The holy sea meets holy stank. A dyer tests the bath with a silver needle, a ritual stolen from Persian silk masters. the wool enters screaming metaphorically. Fibers guzzle blue, deep, undrinkable thirst. You recall Cleopatra's pearl and vinegar trick. Same principle, worse jewelry. Laughter erupts by the river. 3 girls dunk tied-off sections, creating resist patterns older than their braids. One brags her knots replicate Charlemagne's lost battle banners. You don't burst her bubble delusion, fuels good craftsmanship. Noon sun sharpens the contrast. Pale strands become Lazarus rising from indigo. Workers squint at hues like theologians debating angels. Is that azure, cerulean, or just Tuesday blue? The master dyer spits, his verdict final. You notice a fleece rejected for imperfections, cloudy patches where lanolin clung too tight. It'll become some nun's underdress, holiness through paid subscriptions to humility. The vat's dregs glug promises, deepest blues settle like drowned skies. A child scampers through drying racks, fingers trailing across cloth, still sweating dye. His mother chases him with a tongue sharper than her shears. Too late, tiny indigo handprints now grace the abbot's future bed curtains. Divine intervention, indeed. Shadows stretch their legs across the meadow. Workers retreat from heat's tyranny. Only the wool remains vigilant, drinking light, hoarding pigment. You pocket a rejected scrap. Its uneven hue feels like rebellion. Frogs begin their vespers as the last fleece emerges. It drips midnight into the grass, an inky confession without words. The vat exhales, a final belch of fermented legacy. Tomorrow's dyers will swear they improved the recipe. Stars prick the dusk, poor man's indigo. You walk upstream where the Loire runs clearer, rinsing blue from your cuticles. Somewhere beneath those faint stains, the river remembers being nothing but water. Your boots sink into river-washed sand, each step a contest between silt and suction. Dawn's indigo ghosts still cling to your nails, but the Loire's middle currents erode all stories. Wading deeper, you feel the shift. Surface ripples tickle your knees, while colder threads coil around your ankles. 3 strata reveal themselves. Top layer, leaf-dappled play of morning light. Middle, tugging braids of main current. Below, that ancient murmur of upwelling springs. Experts think medieval fulling mills harnessed these same layers, water wheels biting the surface, while deeper flows cooled their mechanisms. Your toes curl, meeting the icy veins at river's base. A submerged basket wobbles past, its willow ribs resisting the undertow. Someone's forgotten laundry. Historians still argue whether 14th century washers timed their work to lunar phases, or just laundered when the Duke's bailiff stopped yelling. You poke the basket. It spins like a drunk courtier. Sunlight lies. The glittering surface hides the true workhorse, those muscle-bound currents 10 feet down. They massage cloth for hours, kneading out stiffness better than any kneecapped apprentice. Your calf brushes submerged linen, tough fibers softened by relentless hydration. Quirky fact: local lore claims drowned monks still card wool down there, their waterlogged robes, filtering sediment since the Black Death. You half expect spectral shears to nip your heel. A fish darts by brown trout or bored ghost. Either way, it judges your technique. You kneel, letting layers claim different body parts. Knees warmed by shallows, shoulders chilled by upwellings. Hands hover mid-depth, the Goldilocks zone for testing twist tension. Tug a strand from your pocket, yesterday's rejected fleece. It dances differently here, fighting the surface, while deeper flows stroke it straight. Cold spring water does what sun can't, shriveling fibers into compliant threads. A stone skips overhead, 3 bounces before the river swallows it. Kids on the bank giggle. Their grandfather yells about disturbing the deep threads. His vernacular holds truth, centuries of cloth nap embedded in these pools. You dredge up a pebble. Its underside wears a beard of woolen lint. Mid-afternoon sun warms your nape, lies to your shivering thighs. Currents conjugate verbs your skin half understands. Scour, twist, rinse, repeat. Your discarded scrap of fleece now hugs a rock, a woolen barnacle dreaming of Viking sails. Shallows grow crowded. Women arrive with beet-dyed petticoats, clattering into the friendly upper layer. Their hems stain the water pink, a poor man's cochineal. You retreat to the numbing depths, where only eels and forgotten tools linger. Something glints beneath a ledge, fingers close around a broken button, 17th century pewter by the look, or maybe last Tuesday's trash. Either way, it marked some washer's bad day. The river collects regrets, like baptismal fees. Dusk arrives the hour when surface and depth perform their switcheroo. Warm layers sink, cold layers rise, a circadian flip-flop. You stand hip-deep in confusion, your left side autumnal, your right believing it's February. A submerged log rolls by nature's washboard. Lanterns appear on the far bank, night shift dippers testing the thermal inversion. Their poles stir the water, blending strata into a lukewarm soup. You begrudge their efficiency, polluting poetry with pragmatism. Moonrise completes the sabotage, flattening the river into a silver sheet. All layers dissolve under its stare, only the springs resist, their icy exhales prickling through lunar illusions. You fill a water skin from the coldest fissure, it'll make bitter tea and better regrets. The washerwomen leave, their pink currents fading to gray. Frogs reclaim the conversation. You float on your back ears, submerged, decoding the Loire's triple heartbeat. Surface gossip, midrivers work chant, the basement hum of stones. One truth emerges, clean wool demands all 3. You wring out the last skein, cold water braiding your fingers blue. What entered as fluff now drips with purpose, each lock tightened into a sailor's fist. Historians still argue whether Viking longships used Loire-processed wool for rigging, or if theirs came rougher from northern fjords. The river answers by tangling your hair, impartial as gravity. Your thumbnail splits a thread, count the plies. 5 clockwise twists per inch, same as they taught Joan of arc seamstresses. A fish bumps your ankle, semi-polite request to stop hogging the good rapids. You surrender the eddy, watch your liberated fleece tumble into the main current. Something clicks. Those formless tufts from dawn now wind themselves taut, water's chaos teaching order. Experts think Napoleon's troops marched on socks knit from these streams, their blisters marginally less cursed. You pocket a stray lock, free souvenir for blander laundry days. Sun warms the shallows. You retreat to the deep's cold arithmetic. Fingers trace submerged rocks, their woolen beards thicker than your grandfather's. Quirky fact: local old-timers swear Celtic water spirits taught humans fulling, but only after being bribed with goat cheese. A bubble rises, either natural gas or ancestral approval. Dusk's first fireflies mimic loose fibers, flecks of misplaced wool dancing inland. You dunk your head, reset the metaphor. Submerged, the transformation clarifies, limp strands flexing into cable under relentless current. 20 minutes underwater, and even your thoughts grow plied. Your heels find a sunken log, naturally grooved from decades of cloaks, scrubbed raw. Archaeologists found similar logs near Pompeii, proof Romans valued river-washed wool enough to haul it past volcanoes. You scrape, a knuckle testing the wood, history's version of a parking ticket. A distant bell tolls, village women retrieving children from berry patches. Their buckets overflow with violet stains, your cue to abandon the numbingly perfect depths. Wading ashore feels like betrayal toes, preferring hydraulic discipline to dry liberty. Twilight exposes the river's hidden workforce. Crayfish picking residual lanolin. Water striders skating on tension. Your abandoned fleece piece now rides a stone like a conqueror. Softness tempered to outlast empires. Napoleon's socks make sudden sense. Threads toughened by French currents, surviving Russian winters. You spread damp wool on a hawthorn thorns as natural drying pins. Night air smells of wet dog and impending purpose. Lanterns bob on the far bank dyers, arriving early to claim their blank canvas. A bat swoops, threading moths between pines. The Loire murmurs its resume, every successful fiber proof of negotiable violence. Your palm skims the surface, tracing where chaos becomes cable. Aimlessness becomes rigging. Historians can keep their Viking debates. You felt the transformation, water's whisper turning indecision into rope. Your palm meets river-smoothed granite, cool, and unexpectedly yielding under callouses. Centuries of currents have worn grooves deeper than wrinkles on a crown each striation, recording 10,000 woolen caresses. Historians still argue whether medieval fullers intentionally chose glacial erratics or just used whatever rocks annoyed farmers during spring plowing. Either way, the boulders outlasted both arguments. You crouch, study the stone's pockmarked face. Tiny craters hold trapped lanolin, amber globules preserved like insects in resin. Quirky fact: 14 upstream villages claim these boulders, once guarded Celtic gold, until the river swapped treasure for laundry duty. A water strider skates across your reflected eye, living proof of distractions, evolutionary perks. Your thumbnail picks at a mineral deposit, crumbles rust red between fingers. Iron oxide, Roman nail residue, legionnaires supposedly washed chainmail here between routing Gauls and inventing bad British food. The stone keeps its secrets, better archivist than any museum. Knees protest as you stand, suddenly aware of how granite ages better than human joints. The rock's curves mimic a sleeping bear's shoulders, if bears specialized in passive-aggressive erosion. You drip onto its surface, watch water bead, and roll like quicksilver fleeing wool's grasp. Downstream, a washergirl's mallet thumps rhythmically, fulling cloth via Newton's third law. The sound mingles with crunching riverbed gravel percussion section for nature's laundromat. Your own rock remains silent until you press an ear to its algae-fuzzed flank. Cold vibrations hum through bone, subsonic purr of moving continents. Some fringe hydrologists swear ancient stones amplify underground rivers. Terra's circulatory system whispering through granite. You count 8 heartbeats before realizing the thrumming isn't yours. Pull back, reality snaps taut as wet thread. A frog plops into your periphery, soggy critic of human rock trysts. You flick water its direction, payment for unsolicited commentary. Twilight softens the stone's edges, turning pragmatic tool into something myth-adjacent. Easy to see why ancestors painted spiral petroglyphs on similar boulders, and why modern graffiti artists get fined for trying. Your heel discovers a carved depression, too symmetrical for nature's chaos. 3 parallel grooves channel runoff into the Loire's main flow, or maybe drains sacrificial lamb's blood, if you believe discredited 1802 folklore journals. Either way, it works better than your apartment's shower drain. Fingertips graze a patch of velvety moss, green counterpoint to stone's brusque pragmatism. Symbiosis, as old as photosynthesis, primordial influencer collab. You rip none, though part of you wants to pocket this chlorophyll now, softening your touch. The rock's cold seeps into your sit bones, nonverbal nudge to vacate the premises. Rising feels like abandoning a elder mid-conversation. You pat the granite twice, half apology, half warranty claim on tomorrow's session. Moonlight exposes quartz veins, jagged lightning frozen mid-strike. 19th century miners dynamited upstream piers, searching for silver only to find these decorative streaks, mocked them with false promises. The joke holds. Your rock's mineral scars glow brighter than any pocketed coin. Currents swirl around submerged siblings, stone family reunions measured in millimeters per century. Their gradual dance makes human wars look like mayfly dramas. Napoleon's cannon factories once leveled hills for limestone. Yet this boulder outlived both empire and acid rain. You press a wool snippet against the rock watchwater wick away until fibers rasp like parchment. Same technique Egyptian weavers used, while Phoenician ships brought Tyrian purple upriver. If you ignore 3 conflicting academic papers from 2007, an owl hoots feathered reminder that obsessing over rocks risks transforming into one. Last glance captures the stone's smirk. If minerals could laugh, tomorrow it'll still be here, patient as debt polishing wool and egos with equal disinterest. Your boots sink into silt where the Loire forgets its depth, a bottomless library of misplaced pebbles. Rush baskets disappear like shy amphibians, submerging with a gasp of trapped air. Their coiled walls hold secrets tighter than royal linen, opening only for water's persistent interrogation. Work happens wordlessly here, no anthems for clean wool. Silence costs nothing, unlike the king's taxes on fuller's soap. Historians still argue whether 12th century wash laws banned singing to prevent worker revolts, or just hated off-key voices. Either way, your throat learns the economy of quiet. Baskets bob, air bubbles rise in dotted semaphore. You decipher messages meant for crayfish. 17 pulses, pause, 23 prime numbers, as old as Euclid's nightmares. A belted kingfisher dives, its shriek ruptures the code. Fringe hydrologists claim bubbles map aquifers, each pop translating to subterranean tributaries. You file this under river gossip. The Loire exhales through willow roots, musty breath of drowned orchards. Your fingers pluck at basket reeds, their tension singing A minor against your thumbprint. Nomadic tribes supposedly traded silent washing techniques for Celtic mead, though modern scholars blame that theory on bad monastic ale. One basket lists sideways, sleepy drunk on current. You write it with a paddle slap, domesticating chaos through applied physics. Napoleon's conscription notices once floated past here, ink bleeding into the wash cycle. Young fullers became soldiers with wool-softened hands, history's cruelest punchline. A submerged creek betrays lanolin's exit strategy, Greece abandoning ship for safer harbors. You spot a bubble colony clustering near limestone, microscopic soap opera actors fleeing the scene. Medieval children used to chase these globes, calling them water fairies, until apprenticeship deadlines called louder. Your sleeve brushes a half-sunk basket, its rim worn smoother than a bishop's ring. 17th century guilds mandated these containers be replaced every 7 years. But river mud extends timelines better than any bureaucracy. This one's probably older than your great uncle's unresolved feud with a blacksmith. Twilight transforms labor into ritual. The last basket sinks like a penitent monk. Air pockets rise in erratic clusters. Rorschach tests for pike and perch. Archival records mention silent auctions for washing rights. Though whether bids involved eyebrow wiggles remains academic fantasy. Palms grow numb from reed splinters, reminder that even purification demands blood tithes. The Loire takes yours without ceremony, red threads dissolving before they reach the next bend. Phoenician traders allegedly drank from this stretch, believing muted workers imbued water with prophetic clarity. Modern lab tests found zero mysticism, just excessive iron. Neighbors' lanterns wink through river fog, amber eyes judging your progress. 3 baskets still float rebels against gravity's expectations. You press them under, knuckles kissing chilly water that's rinsed everything from crusaders' socks to counterfeit ducats. Midnight pivots the chore. Work becomes stealth operation against sleep's creeping tide. Bubbles keep surfacing tiny narcs, alerting the moon to your presence. 18th century washerwomen hid smuggled lace in these baskets, their stitches quieter than church mice. You half expect to find contraband thread between the reeds, turn up nothing but algae. The last basket drifts, unmoored and vaguely existential. You corral it with a stick, mentally drafting a resignation letter to the universe. River sludge has crested your boot cuffs, souvenir of nature's passive resistance. Some idiot at Cambridge insists this mud contains Beethoven's DNA from hair washes. Peer review remains entertained. Dawn's first sparrows critique your technique as baskets finally settle. Their woven lips seal shut. No tattling about your 3 failed submersion attempts. Air bubbles thin to a fragile alphabet, last glyphs of a story even the river forgets by noon. Dawn's sparrows fall silent. Birch shadows stretch across half-drained baskets. You kneel, river muck seeping through frayed knee patches, and spot movement in the murk. Not fish, something smaller. 100 translucent legs scuttle across submerged wool, water beetles as tiny carters. Their mandibles work like antique combs, untangling what human hands miss. 17th century fullers called them St. Cuthbert's helpers, though saints rarely require 6 legs and a carapace. The stream swirls with collaborators. Nematodes wriggle through fibers like living needles. You squint, barely catching their sinuous dance, each twist softening the wool further. Historians still argue whether Norman dyers imported Egyptian beetles deliberately or hitched rides in wine barrels. Either way, Loire will owes its sheen to invasive species. A beetle surfaces, rides a bubble like a crystal chariot before vanishing into foam. Something glints on your soaked sleeve, a mite-sized crustacean hoisting a scrap of lanolin. You flick it gently, watch its trophy sink like Atlantis. Medieval apprentices drank beetle-infused river water as fortification, a practice now blamed for half the plagues in Burgundy. The wool cares nothing for hygiene. It just grows softer under their jaws. Sunlight fractures through water, illuminating a submerged universe. Hydra cling to fibers, their tentacles trapping dirt motes better than any sieve. Rotifers spin through the current, microscopic turbines churning filth into nothingness. You're just the bouncer at this cleanup rave, letting nature's workforce groove. A mayfly lands on your wrist, its brief life spent judging wool quality. 12 hours to live 5, spent criticizing your rinsing technique. Gossamer wings flutter toward a half-submerged basket, joining a beetle convention, debating optimal fiber pH. You envy their focus. Twilight brings reinforcements. Caddisfly larvae roll past in DIY armor of pebbles and twigs. Their cases scrape, will clean abrasion therapy for textiles. One bumps your thumb, an indignant knight clattering its stone shield. Every scrub rewrites the Battle of Agincourt at 1:1000 scale. Moonrise reveals the night shift. Tardigrades emerge from silt like furry submarines. Water bears, they're called, though you've never seen one tip over a picnic basket. Their claws unpick stubborn burrs, survivors of space vacuums, now tackling French sheep fleece. A dozen cling to your paddle, hitchhiking toward fresher contamination. You taste iron again, or is that the ghost of Phoenician traders still sipping here? Their ships carried Tyrian purple your wool's content, with beetle-bleached beige. Historians chuck dew into arguments about intentional V's, accidental bioscouring. The beetles, unsurprisingly, abstain from the discourse. Midnight cools the water, microbes slow their feast. Your lantern catches a mayfly's final spiral, its corpse added to the river's ledger. Wool breathes lighter now, its impurities digested into the Loire's bloodstream. Tomorrow's weavers will never know about the invertebrate ballet. Damp linen hangs limp on the bank, smuggled lace long since washed away. A water strider skims past, legs writing sonnets in surface tension. You wonder if Byzantine silk washers faced similar arthropod audits, or if their silkworms handled security. 3 beetles haul a twig like conquerors, dragging siege engines. Their kingdom spans 6 inches of stream bottom, eternity measured in wool washes. You grant them sovereignty over a mossy rock, taxes payable in lint. Fog returns, a collaborator erasing all proof of tonight's toil. Baskets rise empty, linchpins loosened by a million microscopic jaws. Somewhere downstream, a kingfisher gulps a water beetle, nature's quality control. Dawn finds you ankle-deep in allies, seen and unseen. The wool's ready, the river's exhausted, the beetles already redeploying. You leave them your last reed splinter tribute for services rendered. Morning bleaches the wool further, sunlight stripping color like a thief repenting. You run fingers across its pelt, warmer than marble, softer than unspoken apologies. This isn't absence, it's hunger restrained. 13 generations of weavers chose this pallor, their sheep's sweat-stained coats becoming nobility's undergarments. A breeze lifts loose fibers, ghostly dandelion wisps fleeing toward the hawthorns. Their migration maps the wind's whims. No dye-pot could replicate such fleeting geometry. Medieval laundresses, called undyed wool god's parchment, scrubbed clean for heaven's marginalia. You half expect psalms in the weave, but find only grass seeds and gull down. Historians still argue whether Cistercian monks banned dyes for piety or bankruptcy. Their ledgers show madder root purchases in 1247, crossed out with grubby thumbs. 8 beetles clamber over a sunlit patch, their shells glinting like papal signet rings on nude cloth. You spot a streak, barely bluer than air, the wool's memory of cloudy skies. Renaissance painters sought this hue, for Madonna gowns called it moonlight. Da Vinci's lost wax supper allegedly used Loire, undyed wool, for tablecloth studies. Art historians roll their eyes. Restorers find only pigeon droppings and candle soot. A vendor floats past, his barge hauling woad vats upstream. He shouts something about lazy scourers. You toss him a flax barb, still crusted with beetle eggs. His laughter dissolves around the bend commerce, and purity parting ways again. Shadows pool in the wool's valleys, noon etching temporary hieroglyphics across its surface. Rames's I's mummy wore 93 linen layers, not one dyed. Climate kept him crisp, vanity kept him plain. You fold a corner, watch ancient light bounce between fibers. Untouched by indigo's tyranny or Tyrian purples, stench of fermented sea snails. 3 nuns materialize on the far bank, their habits mirroring your wool's blank slate. They beat flax stems in rhythm, a percussion section for your silent textile opera. One nods, you return the gesture. The abbess of Fontevraud commissioned 200 undyed shrouds during the Black Death. The dyers were dead by then anyway. A child's kite snags on a drying rack, its saffron tail clashing with the wool's austerity. You untangle it deftly, fingertips brushing where color dares not linger. Pre-revolutionary sumptuary laws fined commoners for wearing blue, yet exempted the hue of washed fleece. Evening unspools like raw thread, taupe twilight muting the meadow. Frogs croak approval as you fold moon-pale yardage. 18th century Parisian salons craved rustic chic. Aristocrats paid extra for undyed drapes, smelling of river and humility. Marie Antoinette's sheep costume. Dyed silk, the punchline writes itself. Fireflies blink above the racks, their Morse code at odds with the wool's silence. You pocket a stray tuft, it'll yellow in your journal, beside railway tickets and pressed poppies. Museums display tapestries fraying into confessions, their warps bleached by time's relentless rinse cycle. Night rinses the last pretense from the wool starlight, confirming its vacancy. No alizarin crimson, here no wildflower yellows, just the Loire's signature mineral ghosts trapped in cellulose. You inhale the nothingness, a scent cleaner than abbey stone, sharper than forgiveness. Dawn's first blush finds the wool still drinking plant capillaries, gulping river like wine-sodded scholars. Cottonwood seeds skate past on air currents, fluff-bellied cargo ships ignoring the real work. You pluck one from a soaked strand, its down clings with static desperation. 17th century milliners used these seeds as makeshift down pillows until moths mistook them for buffets. The Loire whispers secrets through the fibers. You swear the water table drops half an inch. Every capillary tremor tightens the wool's grip. Its thirst outpaces monsoon clouds. Napoleonic tax records show laundries paid extra for river-sated cloth, state-mandated hydration for military uniforms. The wool doesn't care about conscripts only. The primal slurp of H2O3 beetles paddle circles in a puddle, their panicked strokes mocking the fiber's calm absorption. You wonder if they're refugees from last night's dye barge, their carapaces suspiciously ultramarine. Historians still argue whether medieval fullers added wine to water for fermentation's kick or just Friday morale. A kingfisher dives, misses a fish, but snags a seed. The wool barely notices, too busy hoarding liquid gravity. Your shirt sticks to your ribs, suddenly envious of textile osmosis. That stray tuft in your pocket feels heavier stealing sweat from your thigh. Sun climbs, evaporation's tug-of-war begins. Steam rises in braille messages only the wool can read. You count 6 distinct drying rates along the rack fickle microclimates in linen's geometry. Renaissance scientists recorded cloth drinking 7 times its weight, but your arm's tremor says 10. Children scamper past with reed baskets, their hems trailing burrs into the stream. One girl pauses, eyes wide, at wool fattened beyond belief. Her grandmother warned that thirsty fibers steal voices, silencing chatty girls near washstones. You hum a lullaby, she bolts, leaving a stolen apple rolling downhill. Noon heat warps the meadow, distant willows ripple like a smudged charcoal sketch. The wool's shadow stretches thin, a stretched-out god napping in the grass. Louis XIV's wigmakers preferred plumped thread for elasticity, and to justify exorbitant invoices, you snap a brittle strand, it sighs like a deflated balloon. Cottonwood fluff catches in your lashes. Now you're part of the staple spread ecosystem. A bargeman shouts something about thieving fluffball infernos. Last summer's sparks still haunt his rigging. The wool drinks on time bending around its osmotic greed. Pockets of dampness linger like unkept promises, microbial civilizations thriving in moist denim fjords. Twilight brings the Seasuchtig Fraulein. That's what night washers call wool in its final bloated state. Their palms press the surface, feeling for stubborn dry patches. 8 fireflies take roost, vivisectionists of dark dissecting the cloth's thirst. You pocket a dripping scrap, knowing it'll mildew by dawn, a petri dish of rebellion. Stars emerge, celestial spectators to the wool's last sips. The Loire coughs up a rusted thimble payment for borrowed water. Historians write papers, the fibers just drink. Your fingers prune joined now to the river's oldest transaction. Your pruned fingers skim the water's skin. The Loire leaves mineral love letters on your knuckles. Chalk beds deep below dissolve like sugar cubes, centuries of liquid limestone courting thirsty threads. 19th century mill ledgers prove it. Cloth washed here outsold competitors 3-1 geology as silent salesmen. A trout nudges your ankle, its scales dusted with the same chalk blessing the wool. You imagine Cretaceous seabeds compacting into this aquatic inheritance, pressurized into softness. Local teens whisper that grinding champagne cork into the banks ensures softer yarn, a fizz boost for fibers. You spot a bottle shard glinting in silt proof of modern alchemists at work. Moonlight fractures on the current, each glittering shard, a calcium carbonate promise. Your palm fills with stream slurry, gritty, with the ghost of mollusk shells. Experts still feud over whether Roman engineers reshaped the riverbed or just stole credit from Celtic women's wisdom. The wool shrugs, content to steep in dissolved mountains. You taste the water, wet blackboard after a rainstorm. Calcium carbonate clings to your tongue, geology's version of powdered sugar. 16 monks once bottled this stream as penitent's tonic, drank themselves into bladder stone sainthood. Their abbey's ruins lean upstream, mossy thumbs down to moderation. Peel back the stream's surface, microscopic limestone shards polish wool like million tiny manicurists. Each fiber's cuticle gets buffed, split ends welded shut by mineral spackle. Napoleon's chemists tried replicating the effect with pulverized marble, ended up with uniforms that squeaked during retreats. A heron spears a frog splash, sends concentric ripples through submerged skeins. The disturbance helps agitations, the final step in limestone's courtship. Village lore claims night-washed wool absorbs moonlight better, weaving cloaks that glow during betrayals. You half believe it. Your left socks definitely phosphorescent. Dragonflies write lazy crop circles above the racks, their wings dusting linen with stray pyrite sparkles. Someone's abandoned washing. Stone leans nearby, its underside crusted with calcite teeth. Historians still argue whether medieval masons used river-rotten wool to mortar cathedrals or just enjoyed the fluff aesthetic. The Loire sighs. Its chalk-laden breath fogs your ankles. You've become a temporary stalagmite humanoid repository for liquid bedrock. That scrap of wool in your pockets, gone stiff, geologic rigor, mortise setting in. Maybe mail it to a geologist or frame it as postmodern art. Dawn's first licks dissolve the night's mineral deposits for now. The wool dreams of looms, its softened ego ready for fame. You wring out your shirt, 18 pebbles clatter to the mud. The river's petty change, footprints fill with chalky water. Behind you, archaeology of a morning's aimless vigil. Your footprints blur under rising water, chalk-laden tide erasing proof of your vigil. Upriver shouts echo the hemp brigade's morning quarrel with flax. Linen demands violence. Mallet-thwacks pound stalks against rocks. Wool floats past like a duchess ignoring tavern brawls. Its rinse a gentle downstream waltz. Flax workers crouch in rapids, ankles lashed by current's coarse tongue. 16th century tax records show their guild paid double for leg wrappings, abrasion hazards. You spot a hemp rope snagged on willow roots, its frayed ends still reeking of vinegar brining. Local gossip claims hemp hates sheep whispers through roots that make ewes miscarry. A linen shirt slaps against washing stones, each blow releasing urticating dust. The beaters cough through scarves, medieval OSHA at work. Historians still argue whether monks wore hair shirts under linen to double their suffering, piety's scratch and sniff. You pat your wool bundle, soft diplomacy in a fiber war. Hemp's acrid musk overwhelms the chalk, scent sharp as broken credit scores. Guild rules from 1423 required full submersion. For cannabis, fibers drown the weed literalism. Teen apprentices dare each other to sip the reeking bathwater. Their gagging laughs bounce off elms. Your wool glides through its mineral spa, no bitter aftertaste, no macho dares. Linen dyers arrive with iron cauldrons, their indigo vats bubbling like storm clouds. They glare downstream at wool's ivory stacks. Bleach purists versus color carnival. A dyer's toddler chases tadpoles, his indigo-stained diaper mirroring the river's duality. You half expect his first words to be ultramarine or periwinkle. Flax's leftover toe clogs eddies, scrubby, under fiber too rough for anything but caulking ships. Napoleon's navy packed it into hull seams. Waterloo's woodworms dined like kings. Your thumbnail tests a floating strand, it leaves a paper cut. Wool sidesteps the debris stone polished and too dignified to snag. Sunlight reveals the hierarchy. Hemp's brute ropes, linen's crisp grids, wool's cashmere curl. 3 fibers baptized in one, river divorced by density and ego. That broken quern stone upstream, Flax's revenge on grinders, a shattered molar mid-chew. Mid-afternoon brings the dyer's lunch break, bread dipped in river vinegar. They mock a wool washer's call to siesta. Luxury breeds laziness. One peels off sodden leggings, his shins mapped with nettle rashes. You nudge your basket into deeper current, letting the Loire buffer their envy. Twilight softens the rivalry. Hemp hangs in mildew-prone sheaves, linen stiffens, on bleaching green wool relaxes into damp harmony. Bats skims the river, neutral referees snapping up grievance gnats. You pocket a flax burr and wool tuft, war relics for tomorrow's meditation. The Loire hugs each fiber differently, chokes some, caresses others. No one asks the river's preference, its answers written in eroded banks. Your left sleeve's damp from an upstream splash, hemp's final argument against serenity. Your damp sleeve stiffens as night chills the Loire, hemp's spiteful parting gift. Moonlight glints on rust-caked rocks. Napoleon's cannons surrendered to river air faster than wool splits from burrs. That broken artillery carriage upstream, third squad's pride after 1812, now just frog condos. Egyptian kings wrapped mummies in linen for eternity, jokes on them. Unwashed wool outlasts their fancy shrouds by centuries, immune to to grave moths. Rumor says embalmers reused pharaohs. Undergarments, poverty, or cosmic thrift. You flick river grit off your bundle. Its fibers shrug off time like dust on a sundial. Historians still argue whether Cleopatra's ships carried wool bales as ballast, proof of superior mildew resistance. Bet she never peeked below decks. Royalty avoids the scratchy truths. Moon-pale strands drape over your arm, more enduring than crowns or conspiracies. A muskrat noses past, its fur matted with hemp fibers and diplomatic spite. You imagine archaeologists unearthing this bend in 2424. Flange shirts, crumbled, hemp ropes rotted, your wool still lording it over mud. Dawn reveals linen's folly. That snooty altar cloth from Chartres, silverfish confetti by 1703. Your great-great-grandma's undyed shawl, though probably softening some future curator's glove. A king's toga phrase, a shepherd's sock survives. Irony's got spun threads and calloused hands. 3 otters crack muscles on the flat rock where dyers once mixed oak gall ink. Priest scribbles washed away long ago, unlike matted felts from Mongol saddles. Ever notice how disaster epics skip the textile epilogue? Asteroids freeze-dry cities, tsunamis pulp museums. Wool just bobs along, mildly annoyed. Your chilled fingers rub the fleece, perpetual survivor, unimpressed by wars over silks. Should someone write a ballad? Nah, let linen have its sonnets. Wool prefers crossword puzzles. 18th century French laundresses actually cross-stitched them to pass time, XII across. Immortal fuzz, 5 letters. Midstream, a caddisfly larva stitches its pebble casing with stolen linen thread. Gothic architecture meets juvenile delinquency. You salute its hustled trash into treasure, debris into dynasty. The Loire licks yesterday's hurry from each strand, no museum label needed. What's cleanliness anyway? Vanities flicker versus muds, long memory. That burgundy stain near the selvage could be Merovingian wine or a sheep's berry binge. Historians will misdiagnose it. Either way, nobility through a lens of wishful thinking. Fog rolls in the river's breath, fogging time's spectacles. Napoleon's underwear disintegrated mid-retreat. Some conscripts, woolen long johns, still patching barn roofs in Lithuania. Last light gilds your basket's haul. Kings die, dynasties crumble. But here's this simple twist of fibers that outweights greedy quiet as breath in a cathedral crypt. You press a tuft to your ear, hearing neither echoes nor fanfare, just the river's soft verdict on permanence. Moonlit water swirls around your ankles, not a hiss to be heard. Even the reeds conspire in whispers to night leaf, edges curling to soft M shapes. You recall medieval fullers stomping cloth in urine vats, their work songs famously lacking sibilance. Turns out piss fermentation neutralizes harsh consonants. Wish you could unlearn that tidbit. A bat dives, wing beats suggesting zucchini muffins in Morse code. The The Loire's dialect favors glottal stops tonight, gurgles plopping like overripe plums. Historians still argue whether Bourbon laundresses added crushed pearls to rinse water, aristocratic softness versus peasant frugality. Evidence: 3 invoices, 12 missing oysters, 0 confessions. Your wool bundle bobs, a mute diplomat in the stream's parliament. No SSSH, hear just the liquid thwop of eddies kissing stones. That burgher's wife in 1632. She demanded her sheets washed in verbena, and saints spit too bad about the lye shortage. You spot a water shrew paddling past, its fur-repelling droplets like a thatched roof. 16th century tanners swore shrew urine-whitened lace also cured gout. Coincidence? The Vatican's lace archives remain suspiciously mute. Distant church bells muffle themselves on the wet air, their bronze tongues wrapped in fog. You mimic the river's speech lips pressed tight, breath channeled through your nose. Ever tried humming through a head cold? Multiply that by 3 saints' fevers. A fish jumps. The splash becomes an umph in the acoustic cathedral. Burgundian monks once filtered wine through wool to catch sediment, God's own breed a pitcher. Their cellar logs mention fewer snake bites to ecology or mysticism. The abbot's marguerites hold their peace. Your pinky grazes a submerged log, waterlogged verses from a Viking longship's hull. Nope, just IKEA furniture's great-grandpappy. Rivers swallow ego first, epics dissolve faster than lanolin. Moonlight etches the opposite bank, sheep skeletons gleaming like ivory combs. Remember Joan of Arc's armor padding, lined with wool from this very valley, itchier than heresy trials. Her secret: lamb's wool against steel sainthood through chafing. 3 fireflies mimic dying embers, arsonist fairies on a smoke break. You pinch a tuft of fleece 0 crackle. All give. 18th century wigmakers would have fought bears for this, an alopecia cure in merino form. The night shifts again, water dark as printer's ink. That Tudor playwright who dunked quills in sheep dip, Marlowe's lost comedy stank of wet dog groundling reviews were merciless. You sketch a play title in the mud much ado about lanolin. A branch drifts by, its cargo of spider silk glinting like underworld lace. Parisian modistes once paid peasants for attic cobwebs, gauze alternatives during silkworm blights. Rumor says Marie Antoinette's fichu caused 4 spider-related fatalities: allergy or assassination. History's loom remains unthreaded. Your shadow stretches watery arms downstream, Rorschach blot with poor posture. Dutch master painters used wool grease to stabilize pigments, vermilion skies, forever blushing. Critics called it cheating, artisans called it not starving. Dawn's first yawn tints the east, apricot smudges on a drowsy horizon. You wring the fleece once more, water exits stage left without applause. Ever notice how silence clings to wool, absence as heirloom, void as dowry? The riverbank exhales, wet limestone releasing yesterday's heat. You pocket a pebble worn smooth by centuries of friction, tiny ambassador from the ministry of erosion. One day it'll be sand, one day you'll be archaeology. Fair trade. A kingfisher zips past, its cry clipped short like a medieval scribe's punctuation. Wool doesn't care about legacy, just the next rinse cycle. You nod, agreement sealed in circadian rhythms. Last star flickers out, auditioning for an encore it won't get. Your baskets nearly full, threads destined to outlive this breath, this century, this feeble human squabble over clean versus eternal. Linen disintegrates, polyester sheds microplastics. Wool just hums along, itchy and indestructible. Fog nestles into the valley's collarbone, the world reduced to laundry day steam. You inhale suspended river particles that once irrigated Capetian vineyards, cleaned Merovingian, socks bathed 1,000 unrecorded dogs. Mortality tastes like wet sheep and perseverance. Sun breaches the oaks, its glare bouncing off the water like a cursive amen. You hoist your dripping burden textile ark without the flood drama. Historians will call this menial, future moths know better. Moonlight slicks the water's skin, your oil lamp coughs, soot like a disgruntled raven. Twilight laundresses materialize downstream, their wicks turned low to spare the moths. You think of Versailles, perfumed courtiers, their lace cuffs soaked in rosewater, while peasants scrubbed by lunar invoices. A woman's silhouette bends, her bucket sloshing dark liquid. Ale dregs, she mutters, 18th century fabric softener for those who couldn't afford orris root. Historians still argue whether night washing was tax evasion or thermal strategy. Rivers chill Titan's fibers faster. Account books hint at both, and a thriving black market in moonlight. Your paddle grazes river clay, cold as a dentist's tweezers. Ever notice how night mutates textures? Wool becomes otter fur, water turns to liquid graphite, even splashes land quieter. The 1624 Lyon Linen Guild forbade lanterns near bleaching fields, claimed artificial light attracted fiber-eating ghosts. 3 lamps flicker, amber pupils in the stream's inky face. You recall a berserk laundry press in Tours crushed 3 workers before being exorcised with lavender oil. Town records cite mechanical frenzy. Locals still leave thread bundles at the cemetery gates. A fish leaps, its scales briefly moonlight's accomplices. Medieval washers believed each star reflected in the river strengthened wool's spine. NASA's gonna need a bigger microscope to verify that. But who's doubting Capricornus? Your skirt hem drinks the Loire, a 1,000-year-old cocktail of melted glaciers and grape skins. That Habsburg princess who demanded her undergarments be rinsed in snowmelt died of pneumonia. Fate's punchline in ermine trim. Someone hums a lullaby about drowned bell towers. The sound braids itself into your wool's core, acoustic conditioner for tomorrow's market. Charles Dickens. Laundress sneezed mid-fold allegedly imprinted crinolines with influenza metaphors. The crinolines deny everything. A bat plucks insects above your head, leather umbrella with commitment issues. Night washes reveal what daylight hides. Dragonfly nymphs knitting armor mayflies, conducting last rites. Your own breath flowing visible and raw. Smoke slinks from a far bank fire. April frosts keep the algae voters indecisive. You dunk a swatch water, accepts it grudgingly. Napoleon's corpse received warmer welcomes. Sluicing sounds take on a braille-like quality. Each ripple's profile felt before heard. Renaissance dyers paid extra for moon-handled. Wool claimed it, absorbed indigo like thirsty sky. Ledger discrepancies suggest they just liked saying lunar mordant at parties. Your fingers prune time's braille spelling enough. A washerwoman offers a rag smelling of vinegar and defeat, the medieval answer to moisturize gate. You decline politely, keep faith with your own impending wrinkles. Clouds photocopy themselves across the current, a toga party for disinterested gods. That Edo period kimono artist who washed silks exclusively during meteor showers. His chrysanthemum patterns allegedly shifted with the Perseids. Museum guards report cold spots. Dawn lingers 2 counties east, giving night its final commission. The wool emerges heavier, impregnated with loam and borrowed darkness. Tomorrow's weavers will battle static tonight's, water already plotting its escape. Crickets fold their sheet music, cobwebs go taut with rehearsal notes. You ring a sleeve 23 drips same as Catherine de Medici's wedding veil count. Coincidence? The Louvre's textile department coughs pointedly. Last lantern gutters out, its final spark eloping with the current. You heft your basket of shadows, walk upstream where roosters hoard daylight. Wool remembers every baptism. This one tastes of loam and stolen stars. Riverbank gravel crunches, a Morse code reciting tomorrow's grocery list. You wonder if clean clothes ever forgive us, trapped in our sweat and vanity. The wool stays mum-wise as any abbess. The basket's rim digs into your hip. A Chinese letter ghost already. Those final stains mock you from damp wool, maple syrup. Rust, a dyer's prank. Historians still argue whether Tudor courtiers left wine spills intentional fabricated humility for piety points. You dunk the stubborn patch, river, sighs not my department. Mud slurps at your ankles, sounds like a gossipy trio of otters. Moonlight reveals the culprit eucalyptus resin from some overenthusiastic 17th century moth repellent. Renaissance laundresses called these marks devil's fingerprints, charged extra for removal, or blessed them as anti-plague talismans. A night heron croaks, jury's verdict on your scrubbing. You recall Madame de Pompadour's infamous mulberry-stained glove, sparked a court trend for accidental imperfections. Versailles, archives later, revealed her seamstress's deliberate spilling 18 livers, extra per blotch. Threads cling to your palm veins of some forgotten quilted beast. That Munich museum displaying a Saxon tunic with Viking-era mead splatters. Curators call it microbial archaeology. Visitors call it medieval barfight chic. Your elbows ache, reminder that purity's a spectator sport. The stream licks the wool's weak spots, horsetail herb scrubs, punished from memory. 8 tries, 9, 10. Still, that amber shadow near the selvage, maple sticky last stand. Lantern light warps across ripples, projecting crime scene outlines. Medieval Balkan weavers wove intentional flaws into rugs of believed perfect textiles, invited the evil eye. Your wool's defects just invited poor tree sap timing. A fish breaches, silver belly flashing like a smuggler's grin. Records show Napoleonic soldiers used bloodstains to fake combat valor on uniforms. Inspectors caught ons started charging for authenticity verification. War's oldest grift. You wring the cloth 12 twists clockwise, 13. Half expected the Loire to whisper spell the stains away, ask for a vowel nothing. Under Tudor law, persistent laundry blemishes could void marriage contracts. Hence Shakespeare's spotless reputation obsession. Mist rises, phantom laundry lines hung with spectral hose. That Kyoto silk master who wove moth holes into kimono linings, called them breathing portals charged triple, died rich buried with a threadbare shroud. Dawn's first bruise purples the east. The wool hangs defeated, still flecked with caramel ghosts. You name it, autumn's blush market buyers will call it discount. Frogs croak a dirtier, a drinking song, hard to tell. Archaeologists found Elizabethan undergarments stained with lead-based makeup, toxicity as fashion statement. The stains outlived the wearers as all flaws do. Your fingers trace the spot warm where the river failed. Georgian dyers had a saying, God makes sheep, man makes mistakes, river makes excuses. The Loire's excuse tonight. A shrug in 7 dialects. Bats swap shifts with swallows. Wing-beaten shift change. That immaculate shroud of Turin. Swiss researchers found 10th century curry stains. Pilgrims still debate if saints loved turmeric. You fold the wool, tattletale mark, hidden inside creases. A final gift for future historians, puzzling over your mornings, indecision maple, or blood blunder, or blessing. River whispers carry away the evidence. Every stain's just time's cheeky margin note. You walk home lighter, flawed, cradling cloth that knows its own worth. Roosters crow accusations across dew-lashed fields. The basket hums content as a stained saint, happy to haunt someone else's spinster aunt. The basket hangs limp at your side, its belly hollowed by success. Fingers grope for absent weight muscles, memorized the heft of wet wool. Remember those 12th century tax records. Parisian laundresses paid per basketful emptiness, literally taxed their pockets. Your slack load feels almost criminal theft by cleanliness. Lantern oil sputters, last droplet clinging to the wick. Ahead the willow racks stand sentinel, their crossbars tattooed by years of hemp rope. Tudor tanners believed unbound fibers absorbed moonlight made leather supple. You'll settle for dew. Ropes hit the grass, coiling like chastised snakes. That Lithuanian folktale claims laundry lines channel ancestral whispers, emptied ones sing funeral dirges. Yours just sways, wind tuning its frayed ends to middle sea stones from your pockets. Clatter surrender their ballast roll. 19th century mill workers sewed cobblestones into hem weights, kept skirts from flying up, function over modesty mostly. Your pebbles retreat, content to be geology again. The Loire chuckles behind you, amused by this sudden divorce. Medieval Burgundy had river separation, fees charged when cloth exited the water, payable in bread, or curses your tabs, settled in goosebumps. Palms inspect phantom callouses, skin still puckered from hours immersed. Rotterdam archivists found a 1632 diary entry, a washerwoman's complaint about hands forgetting their shape. Yours pulses still, echoing the river's tempo. Dawn bleeds through your collar, heat where wool once clung. Historians still argue whether Roman flagellum bags held laundry or battlefield plunder. The answers both. Tools prefer versatility, much like your now useless paddle, a kingfisher dives, indigo streak, mocking your emptied hands. 17th century Japanese aesthetes wrote odes to the melancholy of completed tasks. You hum half-remembered tavern songs, sourceless and satisfactory. Basket ribs press your thigh bones without flesh. That rumor about Catherine de Medici's secret laundry crypt supposedly held her perfumed smocks. Scientists found dried chewing tobacco instead. Legacies, a trickster, meadow grass licks the racks. Submit to steam's slow exorcism. Swiss chemists proved sun-dried linen kills mites. Wool just smothers them in lanolin. You inhale death by luxury. Muscle memory twitches, ghost scrubbing an invisible stain. Which elm bark, tannin ferrous river, mud your fingerprints, outlast their purpose. That Edinburgh laundress jailed for overscouring noble undergarments. Secret hero of cleanliness if you ask me. Rope fibers cling reluctant to release their braided brotherhood. Ottoman rope makers whispered Quranic verses into hemp, believed knots held prayers. Your strands hum with older things, frog, choruses, midnight blasphemies, bargains with water sprites. The path home feels foreign boots, unburdened by resistance. 18th century, Prague had a laundryless march. Women protested soap taxes by airing spotless sheets. Authorities blinked first a grudging respect for organized spotlessness. Lightness becomes you, shoulders rediscovering their architecture. That bog body found clutching a sodden tunic. Analysis showed traces of birch, ash soap proof. Some stains outlive civilizations. Your wool's flaws feel suddenly mortal. Last year's washing song loops in your skull, lyrics sanded down by repetition. Napoleonic conscripts supposedly marched to laundry beat rhymes, misheard as battle hymns. Histories, a game of misplaced meaning. The willow creaks, a matriarch adjusting her load. Your baskets slump at her roots post-coital days of completion. Venetian dyers hung cloth in honeymoon sweets believed newlyweds, breath-fixed colors. You'll settle for slow evaporation. Eyes drift shut, retinas burned with linen white afterimages. That Bombay steam press patent from 1893. Never used inventor feared the hubris of perfect creases. You share his caution and blistering need for sleep. Daybreak licks the wool, each thread a solar receptor. 17th century optics, texto speculate clean linen, focuses, sunlight, harnesses God rays. Your racked fibers just sear retinas, humble as magnifying glasses. Metallarks critique your work, their trills sharper than any draper's needle. Byzantine empresses supposedly judged cloth purity by how swallows reacted nonsense. But you tense as the birds dip closer. Hands fidget for absent stains, settle for plucking grass stems. That irradiated Depression-era dish rag in a Tokyo museum glows faintly, testament to desperate wash cycles. Your wool's dull by comparison gladly. Wind riffles the drying strands, nature's final inspection. Archaeogenetics proved some Roman togas carried sheep DNA from 3 continents. Globalism's early draft. Your wool's pedigree stays local, sung by Pyrenees shepherds last May. You leave the meadow walking backward, delay the moment of true separation. Prussian generals practiced reverse marching to show disdain for retreat. Your shuffles, pure sentiment. The Loire flickers between trees, a conspirator winking. First village sounds breach the silence, a blacksmith's hammer entering the chorus. Renaissance, Milan had laundry day bell codes C-sharp for linens, F minor for wool. The clangor ahead plays no discernible key progress. Sunlight pins your shadow to the path, a reluctant sundial. Victorian sci-fi novels imagined sentient laundry rebelling against washboards. Their hero, a rogue starch particle. You kick a pebble, watch it become geology again. The basket taps your knee, timekeeper's metronome. Its empty belly breathes, easier now, no longer swollen with river secrets. Post-WWI relief workers found refugee laundry pits, cerulean stains from washing German uniforms. History bleeds, wool absorbs, everyone pretends not to notice. Your gate appears, sagging on rusted hinges. Tomorrow the loom. Tonight the ghost weight lingers, an ache where purpose thrived. You pat the basket's rims secretly glad. It feels lighter than your heart. Damp wool sighs on willow slats, steam rising like penitent ghosts. Your footprints mar the meadow's dew, temporary as riddles in fog. 17th century Flemish dyers timed drying phases using hymn verses. Each psalm stanza marked a moisture stage. You count heartbeats instead, 93 since sunrise. Heat warps the air above the racks, a mirage of liquid cloth. That Byzantine empress who wore only sun-dried silks. Historians still argue whether it was piety or textbook photosensitivity. Your wool lacks such pretension, content, to sweat out river memories. Moss creeps toward the rack legs, green advance guard of reclamation. Tudor laws punished meadow trespass by laundry, with fines paid in eggs. Your crime goes unprosecuted, justice measured in evaporating droplets. A strand escapes its binds, dances midair before surrendering to grass. 19th century mesmerists believed hanging fabric absorbed cosmic energy, prescribed charged shifts for melancholy. You pocket the fugitive thread, instant placebo. Lanolin perfumes the clearing, thick as a shepherd's breakfast. Ever heard of Welsh moonlight taxidermy? Stuffed hares were posed, folding linen hillbilly homers, singing laundry lists. Your own spectatorship feels tame just crows, judging tension points. Palms hover over the rack, feeling convection's invisible loom. Rotterdam archivists found a ledger entry. Paid 1 firkin butter for wool's breath. Accountants as poets pity that guild died out. The meadow exhales, a breeze scented with relinquished grime. Your nape prickles, awareness of being outlived. That Stone Age pouch discovered in Denmark held unspun fibers older than agriculture, some stains still biting. Shadows stretch east gridirons of light, scorching the racks. Bolognese silk magnates built solar drying towers, medieval tanning beds for the bourgeoisie. Your willow frame bends, democratic sagging under proletariat wool. Ants explore a dropped hem weight, obsidian pebble-grown stranger. You recall Marseille's laundresses bribing nuns to bless their wash water. Holy bacteria versus stubborn grease. A forked fern leaf marks the stone nature's claim tag. Heat rash blooms on your wrist, collateral from reflected sunlight. Gold beaters once layered wool between hammer and leaf metals, rage softened by fibers. Your skin lacks such alchemy red and righteous. The Loire murmurs behind hedgerows, discreet as a chaperone. 17 ducks land downstream, feathers slick with what your wool shed. Mogul miniature painters used lanolin to fix gold leaf their peacocks, eternally mid-preen. Grass blades pierce spun layers, green needles embroidering critique. Found a barnacle goose's nest once lined with stolen yarn. Today's avian thieves prefer discretion or better taste. Dew becomes syrup under solar siege, gluing stalk to stalk. Your canteen offers warm respite, water flavored with pine sap and neglect. That Mongol warlord who boiled laundry to demoralize sieged cities. Tactical stench, warfare underrated in textbooks. A rack joint pops, wood's complaint about thermodynamics. You mimic the sound jaw hinge telegraphing, shared exhaustion. Renaissance surgeons set bones using wet linen casts, the original shrink wrap. Your skeleton empathizes, yearning for such containment. Wind riffles the wool, brief resurrection as rippling beast. Historians still argue whether Inca knotted threads concealed laundry lists or battle plans, pork, no lows dues. Your fabric's secrets stay bland, mostly grass stains. The meadow's choir assembles, bumblebee bassline, sparrow soprano. A dropped shears chip rusts quietly, participatory percussion. 18th century Liverpool had a laundryman's philharmonic all washboard and ringing sounds, their sole surviving score. Lint in D minor. Shadows now stretch west, day drunk and stumbling. You peel a sweat-sodden shirt from your back's second skin, reborn as battle flag, that Alaskan tanner who sued the midnight sun for overbleaching. Case dismissed, celestial sovereign immunity. Rack shadows stripe the ground, prison garb for retired heroes. Your kneecaps approve the coolness patellas, petitioning for early retirement. Victorians believed dried tea towels could predict storms, fabric tightening like a sailor's knee. The wool pales further, bleached by photons and perseverance. A ladybug navigates the linen, tundra lost emissary from aphid wars. Rhineland pagans washed sacred cloths in volcanic springs, sulphurous cleansers for divine stains. Your baptisms, tamer mere river silt and elbow grease. Cotton grass seeds hitchhike on your hem fluffy stowaways, craving city life. You flick them, loose denying botanical wanderlust. That Cambodian silkworm farm disguised as a noodle cart. Border guards ate the evidence literal thread trafficking. The racks empty by increments, evaporation's gentle heist. Your lungs sink with the process exhaling liquid, inhaling accomplishment. Ever seen a Bhutanese prayer flag disintegrate? Wind claims what water releases, ascension via particle physics. Light softens, gold yielding to amber as the wool achieves crispness. A gnat's life cycle concludes against your eyelash minor epilogue to today's epic. Spanish Inquisition records mention possessed lace demonic flirtations with starch. Your own battle feels secular if equally obsessive. Twilight's first star winks, cosmic approval rating. You fold the wool with creases sharper than intent. That Edo period lunatic who ironed cherry blossoms left nothing except pressed pink dust. Your own perfectionism stops at functional creases mostly. The meadow darkens, grass reclaiming its Lenten sacrifices. You shoulder the prickling bundles textured like cloud carcasses. Aztec priests wore unwashed ritual robes for decades, fabric stiff with sacrificial cholesterol. Your hall smells better if marginally. Path homeward welcomes your tread soil, memorizes boot patterns anew. That Viennese composer who scored his symphonies on bedsheets died mad, but oh, the duvet drafts. Your wool symphony stays wordless rhythm of shifting weight. Lanterns bob in the distance, village claiming its dues. The Loire whispers something obscene about your departure, watery gossip you'll pretend not to hear. Dawn's already rehearsing tomorrow, echoing in the creak of willow racks left behind. Cobblestones click underfoot, lantern light pooling like spilled cider between flagstones. Your shoulder remembers the wool's absence, ghost weight haunting muscle memory. 15th century Brussels weavers timed their work to cathedral bells, each clapper strike measured warp tension. your palms itch emptied of river-chilled fibers. Damp bundles settle in the weaving shed, hibernating until spindle songs begin. Ever seen a haunted heddle? Bohemian lore claims certain looms wove their own patterns at midnight, angry textiles demanding use. These wooden frames stay obedient for now. Moonlight slips through cracked shutters, striping wool bales like captive zebras. Historians still argue whether Egyptian mummy wrappings were intentionally frayed to mimic sacred clouds, desperation, or divinity. Your threads lack such ambitions, destined for peasant tunics and aprons. A moth grazes your ear, furtive critic of stored fabrics. You blow it toward open-air pale apostrophe, fleeing parchment streetlight. Tudor sumptuary laws banned purple dye for anyone under Earl status class warfare via chromatography. Your undyed wool democratizes the dark. The shed door creaks its nightly psalm rusty hinge as chorister. You need stiff fingers, knuckles cracking like loosed weaver swords. That Florentine widow who wove her husband's hair into mourning cloth sold 7 yards to Cardinal's memento mori commerce. Lanolin stardust coats every surface, grime made constellation. Your boot nudges a forgotten spindle wooden snake uncoiling across floorboards. Napoleonic soldiers used raw wool to muffle rifle stocks. Textile warfare's whisper campaign. These skeins sibilant neutralize already drafted for peace. Outside, the Loire's sigh infiltrates cracks, liquid gossip seeping through walls. You inhale river musk lingering in the wool's core fey, aftertaste of sunken stones. Medieval Parisian laundresses paid bridge tolls in Saxa paved with pedestrian hosiery. Dawn threatens behind oaks, pink filaments testing the horizon. You lean on a warped loom bench spine, mirroring its reluctant curve. Ever hear of Persian rug weavers inserting deliberate flaws? Apology to Allah for perfection's arrogance. Your own errors stay accidental and frequent. A spider descends via silk thread, a tied pendulum gauging your worth. Its shadow draws kanji on the floor proclamation or receipt. Colonial Williamsburg reenactors once carded wool during declaration, readings a patriotic lint as political commentary. Your shadow stretches toward the door, smeared marionette, eager to quit. Beeswax candles gutter in their sconces, wicks drowning in devotion. That Kyoto silk weaver who catalogued 237 shades of twilight, executed for stealing imperial hues chromatic lees, majesté. First birds heckle the night's finale, feathered pedants correcting the dark. You extinguish lanterns, each flame's death rattling the room. Bavarian guilds buried master weavers with their shuttles, wooden grave goods clattering underground. Cool air rushes through opened doors, sweeping dust into parable shapes. The village square remains asleep, cobbles dreaming of cloven feet. That Buenos Aires tango on cloth factory floors looms, keeping time with bandoneon, apocryphal but poetic. Home's hearth offers yesterday's ashes, warm disgrace of extinguished effort. You slump into a chair, its cane seat groaning familiar betrayal. Mughal emperors slept on wool-stuffed mattresses. During monsoon, season flees, the true dynastic heirs. Eyelids fall, the river surges beneath them. Cathedral bells begin their 6 a.m. assault iron, tongues preaching obligation. Dutch colonists taught sheep to recognize spinning wheels, ovine PTSD for textile efficiency. Dreams come carded and unruly threads without clear direction. A single phrase surfaces, water muffled before sinking again. The Loire's forgotten whisper now warping into tomorrow's pattern. Cobblestones click underfoot, lantern light pooling, like spilled cider between flagstones. Your shoulder remembers the wool's absence ghost weight haunting muscle memory. 15th century Brussels weavers timed their work to cathedral bells. Each clapper strike measured warp tension. Your palms itch emptied of river-chilled fibers. Damp bundles settle in the weaving shed, hibernating until spindle songs begin. Ever seen a haunted heddle? Bohemian lore claims certain looms wove their own patterns at midnight, angry textiles demanding use. These wooden frames stay obedient for now. Moonlight slips through cracked shutters, striping wool bales like captive zebras. Historians still argue whether Egyptian mummy wrappings were intentionally frayed to mimic sacred clouds' desperation or divinity. Your threads lack such ambitions, destined for peasant tunics and aprons. A moth grazes your ear, furtive critic of stored fabrics. You blow it toward open-air pale apostrophe, fleeing parchment streetlight. Tudor sumptuary laws banned purple dye for anyone under Earl status class warfare via chromatography. Your undyed wool democratizes the dark. The shed door creaks its nightly psalm rusty hinge as chorister. You need stiff fingers, knuckles cracking like loosed weaver's swords. That Florentine widow who wove her husband's hair into mourning cloth sold 7 yards to Cardinal's memento mori commerce. Lanolin stardust coats every surface, grime made constellation. Your boot nudges a forgotten spindle wooden snake uncoiling across floorboards. Napoleonic soldiers used raw wool to muffle rifle stocks. Textile warfare's whisper campaign. These skeins civilian neutralize already, drafted for peace. Outside, the Loire's Sigh infiltrates cracks, liquid gossip seeping through walls. You inhale river, musk lingering in the wool's corfée aftertaste of sunken stones. Medieval Parisian laundresses paid bridge tolls in Saxe paved with pedestrian hosiery. Dawn threatens behind oaks, pink filaments testing the horizon. You lean on a warped loom bench spine, mirroring its reluctant curve. Ever hear of Persian rug weavers inserting deliberate flaws? Apology to Allah for perfection's arrogance. Your own errors stay accidental and frequent. A spider descends via silk thread, a tied pendulum, gauging your worth. Its shadow draws kanji on the floor proclamation or receipt. Colonial Williamsburg reenactors once carded wool during declaration, readings a patriotic lint as political commentary. Your shadow stretches toward the door, smeared marionette, eager to quit. Beeswax candles gutter in their sconces, wicks drowning in devotion. That Kyoto silk weaver who catalogued 237 shades of twilight, executed for stealing imperial hues chromatic lees, majesté. First birds heckle the night's finale, feathered pedants correcting the dark. You extinguish lanterns, each flame's death, rattling the room. Bavarian guilds buried master weavers with their shuttles, wooden grave goods clattering underground. Cool air rushes through opened doors, sweeping dust into parable shapes. The village square remains asleep, cobbles dreaming of cloven feet. That Buenos Aires tango on cloth factory floors looms, keeping time with bandoneon, apocryphal but poetic. Home's hearth offers yesterday's ashes, warm disgrace of extinguished effort. You slump into a chair, its cane seat groaning familiar betrayal. Mogul emperors slept on wool-stuffed mattresses during monsoon season fleas, the true dynastic heirs. Eyelids fall, the river surges beneath them. Cathedral bells begin their 6 a.m. assault iron tongues, preaching obligation. Dutch colonists taught sheep to recognize spinning wheels ovine PTSD for textile efficiency. Dreams come carded and unruly, threads without clear direction. A single phrase surfaces, water muffled before sinking again. The Loire's forgotten whisper, now warping into tomorrow's pattern. Cool air carries the river's breath through your threshold, a lullaby spun from silt and stars. Fingers uncurl, releasing phantom threads to the floor. Bavarian spinners once left bundles at crossroads, offerings to night winds hungry for unfinished tailies. Moonlit dust settles on idle spindles, wooden sentinels guarding empty looms. Your spine softens against the bench warps, and wefts of fatigue finally aligned. 17th century lacemakers buried their mistakes in churchyards, knots sanctified by hungry soil. Beyond the window, poplars sway like drowsy metronomes. Each creak of the shed whispers, enough. Venetian dyers dreamed of drowning in indigo vats, their lungs blooming with twilight hues. You settle for simpler drownings in sleep's shallow broth. Lanolin clings to your sleeves, smeared constellations without names. A cricket's chirp tangles with the river's Sigh, nature's own shuttle passing through darkness. The weight of unwoven wool feels lighter, now future cloth content to remain potential. Dawn's first fingers brush the eastern warp. You drift where even looms forget their purpose, where threads dissolve into river mist. The last lantern exhales, its smoke curling like a prayer too tired to rise.